A warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us for Friday's installment of the AM Show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and I do this together with Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah, and Mapitso CBD. Now, this morning, as always, we're going to serve you the news shortly. But right after that, we're joined by Director for the Daily Dispatch newspaper, Ben Efson, for the newspaper review. But then we get into our big stories and two major issues we're going to have to contend with. The minority is describing the 2023 budget as the Akapo budget, and one that will bring excruciating hardship to Ghanaians and businesses. So what's in the 2023 budget? Among other things, VAT has been increased from 12.5 to 15%. The e-levy has dropped from 1.5 to 1%, with the 100 CD threshold abolished, taken away. And government is to suspend interest payments for domestic bondholders and impose a 30% haircut on foreign bonds. We're asking, can this budget help turn the economy around in 2 years? This morning we hear what economic watchers and analysts have to say. Well, away from that, Portugal, well, they struck against the Black Stars yesterday in a 3-2 win. They drew first blood. The question is, can Ghana go through that storm and go past the group stage? We'll be speaking to some sporting pundits on that matter. But again, it's raw, it's unedited, undiluted. My blunt thoughts I'll be serving you this morning. And I've titled it, Of Unrestrained Unemployment, a Massive Housing Deficit, and a Debt Stock Crippling the Nation. How we got here. Stay tuned for that one. But later on the show, you also get the chance to interact with us, share your thoughts with us. In fact, in the course of the show, with the hashtag AM Show. And when we activate the phone lines, which we will do today, do give us a call and let's hear from you. Up next, the news. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Let's get into our first story now. And Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has announced key revenue measures expected to shore up Ghana's struggling economy. Presenting the 2023 budget to Parliament, the embattled minister touted the budget as one which would put the country on the path of economic growth, despite the minority insisting this budget would only compound the woes of Ghanaians. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante has this report from Parliament.
The days leading up to this presentation were tense. This was on the back of 98 NPP MPs threatening to boycott the presentation if it was made by embattled Ken Ofori-Atta. With that out of the way and the censure motion hanging, Ken Ofori-Atta delivered what many have described as the most consequential budget in the nation's recent history. He announced an increase in the VAT rate and a review of the controversial e-levy.
One, increased VAT rate by 2.5%. to directly support our roads and digitalization agenda. Fast-track the implementation of the Unified Property Rate Platform Program in 2023 and review the e-levy act and more specifically reduce the headline rate from 1.5% to 1% of the transaction value as well as the removal of the daily threshold.
Feeding grants for the school feeding program is also set to go up.
In 2023, the feeding grant will be increased to reflect the current cost of living.
The big elephant in the room has been debt restructuring. The minister provided an update.
We will implement a debt exchange program to address the challenges identified in the portfolio in collaboration with all relevant stakeholders, including the Ghanaian public, investor community, bilateral countries, and development partners, and foreign bond investors.
Ken Ofori-Atta also announced further spending cuts, including a freeze in public sector employment.
All MDAs, MMDAs, and SOEs are directed to reduce fuel allocations to political appointees and heads of MDAs, MMDAs, and SOEs by 50%. A ban, Mr. Speaker, on the use of V8s or V6s or its equivalent except for cross-country travel. Reduction of expenditure on appointments, including salary freezes together with suspension of certain allowances like housing, utilities, and clothing. A hiring freeze for civil and public servants. No new government agency shall be established in 2023. Government cares deeply about our people and is very concerned about the current plight and the future of our country.
The minority were not enthused about the presentation.
So, Mr. Speaker, this budget is a campaign budget. A campaign because he has announced debt restructuring in the name of a debt exchange program.
Ranking member on the Finance Committee, Dr. Kisela Tuforsin, claimed this budget will worsen the plight of Ghanaians.
The dose they gave to us today, if care is not taken, will result in our economy dying. But let me tell you, this budget is going to be a severe budget that is going to introduce extreme austerity in the year 2023. I can only urge the people of Ghana that brace up for maximum hardship, worse than what we've gone through in 1979 and 1983. That is going to happen because the budget as read today is nothing but an intensive and severe, and I repeat the word severe, hardship that they have introduced.
The 2023 budget was uncharacteristic in many ways. It did not come with the usual cheers and jeers that MPs will be doing on the floor of Parliament. Indeed, when the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, finished speaking, the usual way of the majority MPs standing up to cheer him and praise him did not come. This may be due to the fact that 98 NPP MPs did not want the minister to present the budget until a late meeting with the Council of Elders changed that decision. But the minority have now signaled their intention to frustrate the passage of some of the key revenue measures that Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta announced. It is left to be seen now that the various strands of the budget have now been referred to the committees of Parliament, the Finance Committee and other such standing and select committees. In the coming days, MPs will be debating the policies that the minister has outlined in the 2023 budget. For JoyNews, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Now, the Association of Electrical Dealers at Opera Square in the Central Business District of Accra has also been reacting to the content of the 2023 budget. The leadership is concerned about the increase in VAT, insisting it will make life unbearable for already ailing businesses. Here's the chairman and the financial secretary's interaction with my colleague, Emefa Apau.
Oh, I never hear everything yet, but I've been told about the e-levy and VAT. So the VAT is going to about 2.5%. So it's going to about 6.5%. It's too high. Because of the dollar rate, the business are almost already collapsed. So if the VAT 2 is going up, and then definitely it won't help us. And the e-levy is good, that is come down small. So when it comes down to 1%, that's okay for us. But the VAT is too much for, you must prepare for 4% is okay, but 2.5% is not good for us. Because the business is not going well. Because if we want everybody to pay the VAT, we must do it very moderate for us, to everybody can pay. That's the only thing I can say at the moment now.
But were you expecting this 2.5%, you'd say?
No. I'm thinking that maybe we want to reduce it for us, but rather to go up about 2.5%. It's very.
This current condition, were you actually expecting a reduction?
But never mind, because we want everybody to pay something. It's better to make it very moderate to everybody to participate than increase it to people to run away. The more you increase high, people run away on it. Because we see the e-levy, when you go up 1.5%, people are not paying. But 1%, people are going to pay.
I was expecting the government to bring policy that will help the local trade. We know we have investment laws in Ghana. Now the foreign have taken over the local markets. We've had several agreements with the government, you lock their shops, so many things have happened. The dollar is going up, and most of these foreigners are those who import more than the Ghanaians. So the dollar that is going up is basically because of the foreigners who are importing more and sending the money back to their countries. You made mention of the DBG, helping local industries to produce more. What about traders? I didn't hear anything about traders. All he said was the DBG going to help the local industries to start production. Those already going to do the expansion. What about traders? We punish so much to the economy. Look at the money we pay at the port, duties and other taxes. I didn't hear much about helping the traders to also expand. And then I also made mention of the VAT. Now we are paying flat of about 4%. It brings 2.5 in addition to that. Already we are complaining about the VAT. We are adding extra to the percentage. How are you going to do that? One, you're going to make the things very expensive. Dollar is high. Cost of borrowing is also high. Combine all these things. How are you going to hope to sell to our customers?
Well, some residents in Kumasi have expressed mixed reactions about the 2023 budget statement presented by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. While a number of the citizenry in the region are confident of a positive overturn of the country's economic fortunes, others are dissatisfied with the value-added tax going up by 2.5%. Love FM's Emmanuel Bright-Kweku has been interacting with some of them.
Bibia kakrakra bibia say 1.5 for the about 1.0 na kakrakra say no more economy so a no be how we see there.
Let's take things gradually. They started with 1.5% and now it's been decreased. Then it's good. Fuel is an essential commodity running the economy, so if it's high, prices of goods will go up.
Say the
statement won't help. We are hoping things will be subsidized. Every item on the market now is expensive. If the VAT is introduced, it won't help.
Now, student, baby cry the G20, baby the G18. We have some normal way pa yefema. That's a stay to no mama can want. Yes, dollars and baby I could be way. Then call from near Hunsun Toy. This idea. Maybe I can't on the only crowd confusion baby moon. Target for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Now this you are doing look see pa or buy way region piano you see shelves are yes store in Miane.
Dr. Kwame Nkrumah established a lot of preservation factories for the country. So if the government wants to build more factories to produce locally, then we will be able to harvest more and feed ourselves.
Feed yourself, grandpa, a champ on the buy and I yet watching. That's not for I got to say, oh, you never know boy and economy and you give it me a jatum.
If the government would only institute these measures, then we would agree to the budget statement. We hope everything gets back to normal.
Worldwide crisis and Abba, but we are there when we are so in the
Adanya Papa when the cast of Kumi Precono. Sapa Poe and the cast of Vati Kumi Preco. Divata some credits as worker, and that's what the background.
What always comes to mind when the name of Paga is mentioned is its crocodile pond. However, Kulmasa, located in the Saulaktuna Kalba district of the Savannah region, also has an abundance, a maze of crocodiles. The crocodiles are also a representation of their totems, and eating them is forbidden. When they are seen in their homes, it is a signal that one of the elders of their community will pass on in the coming days. JoyNews' Upper West regional correspondent Rafiq Salam traveled to the pond and now reports crocodiles, though not tamed, are harmless.
The Kolma Crocodile Pond has been in existence for centuries, according to tour guide Justice Nudawana.
The origin of these crocodiles can be traced at the time there was a war between Babatou and Samori. Babatou and Samori were slave raiders. So our great-grandfather was chased by warriors. He arrived at the deeper stream that he needed to cross. An object appeared from the water like a piece of wood. He sat on it and they took him across the water. When the enemies got to the stream and they were trying to cross, they rather drawn inside the stream. It is then that he turned and realized that what he was sitting on was actually not a piece of wood, but a crocodile. So he said none of his descendants would take the meat of a crocodile.
Since then, it is a taboo for members of the community to take the meat of a crocodile. The crocodiles are regarded as their totems and are therefore harmless.
Unknowingly, if you hear the aroma of that of a crocodile, you develop boils on your body. We have a pond in the community where they fetch the water and they mix with some concoctions to rub the body, and then the boils will go away. And then again, in case an indigenous elder is going to pass away in the community or outside the community, one of these animals will move from the pond to any household in the community. So when elders see this way, they know that something is going to happen in the community. And then normally, it's not necessarily where the person is going to pass away that it will go to. By 3 to 4 days' time, it will come back to the pond. And while in the community, it doesn't harm anybody. It can be in your kitchen, it can be in your compound for the 3 days or 4 days before coming back to the pond again.
Despite the eloquent display of knowledge on the crocodiles by the tour guide, we still had doubts about their existence, and we decided to visit the pond to see for ourselves. Members of the Kolomanga Tourism Committee initially were reluctant and had doubts about the appearance of the crocodiles outside the pond because of the timing. It was on a Friday. The sun was at a zenith and scorchy. There was complete silence around the pond area except the chirping of birds. The tour guide, Justice Nudawana, appears with a chicken on hand and started calling on the crocodiles. Few minutes later, Lady's Luck smiled on us and we saw some sort of turbulence on the rather calm pond.
Nabalwana! Nabalwana!
The biggest and the oldest for that matter, in top speed, swam out of the pond and ordered to lie on the bare stony rough sand.
See that's coming. Can you tell them to stop? You can see that it has stopped. Based on that instruction, that telling the crocodile to stop, and it lie down.
The over 80-year-old grandfather crocodile was accompanied by other 70 smaller crocodiles, but they stayed at the periphery, watching how things will pan out. In fact, they served as guards.
I've seen you when we got here. You were saying, Nabalawana, Nabalawana. What is that?
That is my grandfather come. My grandfather come in the local language. When you say Nabale, that is my grandpa. Wana means come. And it's a long union between the community and then the animals. Over here, we believe that the crocodiles are our totems.
Can I come here alone?
If you come here alone and then call,
if I say Nabalawana, will it come?
It will not come.
Because I'm not a member of the community?
Yes, even the tour guide.
Okay.
Even those who are members of the community, if you come here on ordinary day, say Nabalawana, it listen to the voice. So if not one of the tour guides, it will never come, or the manager.
Okay.
The tour guide holding the chicken was being granted the interview. The hungry grandfather crocodile began to run out of patience and few times made some gestures, but the tour guide wouldn't budge. When the chicken was finally thrown at it, the rather calm crocodile became aggressively ferocious and missed it. It was directed to go back to pick it. There are over 100 crocodiles, we are told, in this pond, per statistics from the last census conducted.
In the year 2012, we had experts from Germany and the USA. They came down with their machines to assist us to do the census. After the census, we had 97 animals in the pond. And outside the pond,
animals, we are talking about crocodiles.
Crocodiles.
Okay.
We counted 97 crocodiles, and then outside the pond, we counted 7.
The tour guide appeals to the government through the Ministry of Tourism, Creative Arts and Culture to help fence the pond and also provide recreational facilities to boost up tourism in the area.
You see that the animals are not tame because the place is not fenced. If only we get a support to fence the pond, we can train them for people to sit on them and even touch them. And then again, when tourists come to the pond, where to sit sometimes is a problem. So if only we can get summer huts around the pond, it will help boost the tourism activities in the community.
A view equally shared by the president of the Kolomanga Youth Association.
we want to appeal to organizations, particularly those into natural conservation, to come and dredge this pond. As you can see, those days, all of this place used to be water, but you can see that now it has been silted. And so we are appealing to organizations to come to our aid to try to dredge this pond for us. Thank you. So we have crocodiles here at Kurumasa, and so the next time you are passing by on the Kumasiba Road, at least just take a peep at Kurumasa and come to this pond. You see these crocodiles here. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam, Kulmaha.
And it's on that note that we cap off the news this morning. Up next, the news review will be joined by Ben Efson of the Daily Dispatch. Do stay. We're grateful you stayed, and it's time for us to serve you what the newspapers are saying this morning. Quite a lot on the budget, quite a lot on the Black Stars loss yesterday, but good thing is we gave a good account of ourselves. The first goals scored by an African nation at Qatar 2022. We'll be delving into that, but let me welcome aboard Ben Efson, editor of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Mr. Efson, a very good morning to you. All right, we'll try to get the connection to Mr. Efson, and we'll take it from there. But I'd love to hear from you via the live stream. What are your thoughts concerning yesterday's match? I have my own thoughts, my take. I've already shared it on myjoyonline.com. You can take it there. You can check it out. I shared my thoughts on Baba Rahman, whom I believe single-handedly cost us 2 goals. We could have gave the Portuguese side a much tougher time. And yesterday was heartbreak for me watching it because I could spot so many loopholes. Yes, they say sometimes watching from afar, you see so many things, but there were so many glaring mistakes. But I'll not give out everything. You want to read that article on myjoyonline.com. But let's get into the papers. As and when we're joined by Ben Efson, we'll take it from there. 2023 economic policy. Ambitious revenue drive underway. E-levy reduced to 1%. VAT increased to 15%. That's by 2.5 percentage points. Funding for 30,000 youth-led businesses. Spending cuts, feeding grants go up. Those are some of the major stories when it comes to the budget presentation. I'll read the story so we pick details of that. There's also government picks graphic to produce paper, and then central tone, like was announced yesterday, lack of roads undermines development. And you can also read the finance minister's full responses to censure motion raised by the minority in parliament in tomorrow's special edition of the Daily Graphic. I'm doing a bit of an advert for them. Yeah, of course, it's just in a good spirit. But let's look at this story. So the government plans to aggressively mobilize domestic revenue, boost local production, and cut spending in order to increase revenue and reduce the country's dependence on borrowing. It will also provide funding for 30,000 youth-led businesses and raise spending to protect the poor and the vulnerable as part of efforts to mitigate the impact of rising prices on individuals and firms. The Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, who announced the stream of measures when he presented the 2023 budget and economic policy of the government to Parliament yesterday, said the budget also sought to stabilize the economy and transition it into an upper middle income status. He said the government acknowledged that the citizenry had been severely impacted by the current economic challenges and had therefore lined up appropriate policies and programs to help address the challenges. On revenue, the finance minister sought Parliament's approval to increase the value-added tax by 2.5% from 12.5% as part of measures to increase local resources and help reset the economy onto the path of growth. He also said the 2.5% increase in the consumption tax handle was expected to rake in more than 2 billion Ghana cedis next year. He said accrued funds would be channeled into supporting the road sector and the government's digitalization agenda. On social interventions, Apart from the revenue measures, the budget would double allocations to the livelihood empowerment against poverty payment per beneficiary household from the current 45 cedis per month to 90 cedis. The government would also increase the number of beneficiary households of LEAP from the current 344,185 households. Quoting him, he says, these measures will increase the current budget on LEAP from 19.7 million Ghana cedis in 2022 to 395 million Ghana cedis. Increase the budget on school feeding caterer payment by an additional 138 million in 2023, Mr. Foriata said. Of course, the point has also been made that they're going to have to increase that about 1 cedi. At a point, it was less than a cedi per student or per pupil. And a lot of complaints came through. I mean, it was practically impossible to cook anything with that sum of money. According to the finance minister, there's going to be an increment there. Also, in terms of revamping production, he said the COVID-19 pandemic had raised the need to reset the economy through industrialization. But you see, with all this talk, I was listening to, was it the BBC? Yes, yesterday. And there was a report, and it was very interesting listening to market women, traders, ordinary people speaking, because this person who was reporting for the BBC was talking about what we all know. A corkscrew, if anybody watched or listened to it, they can share with me. A corkscrew made in China. Toothpicks made in China. Practically everything the person picked had been made in China. And so it's no wonder that we are where we are. We're cutting, forex to some of those importing some of these items. But is that going to solve the problem? Only time will tell. I sometimes feel very aggrieved owing to my age and what could have been done for me ahead of time. From the Nkrumah era, we curtailed that on the 24th of February 1966 and said we wanted better. But is this the better? 5+ decades on. And especially when we spoke about moving from taxation to production. Is this the production? And you ask yourself again, recently we heard from Nana Komia, stalwart of the NPP, talking about factories here and there. Problem is, these are not checking out. And that is why we find ourselves at a standstill. We're not making progress because what? Is it sugar? Have we cut down on our sugar imports? Is it fruit juice? We import from everywhere across the world, even South Africa and Nigeria. Nigeria is not importing any of these. They are producing their own in town. Is it poultry? What is it? We import everything. How can we attain that status then? So it makes for interesting, reading when some of these things are said. But we can only keep hoping that the right things would be done. You can also share your thoughts with us on the e-levy, which has been reduced to 1%. But of course, that threshold has been taken off. So even if you send 10 pesos, you'll be hit. There's also VAT that has been increased to 15%, among others. We're joined by Bernice, editor of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Mr. Efson, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben, and good morning to our viewers.
Great. What are your key takeaways from Budget 2023? Let's go straight for the jugular.
Oh, I think that straight away it's about no hampers, no production of these things, because
no diaries,
nothing.
Well, technically not nothing, but at least those were mentioned that they were being taken out.
Ben, there is so much money that goes into these things.
Right.
Another one of my joys is, and I hope that the government will give reward for many of the citizen journalists who will be able to film and put on TikTok or put it out when they see these four-wheel drives being misused in town.
Right.
So all the government vehicles, I believe, should have GV number plates immediately.
I think that was made mention of, that they will be green, they'll have government, number plates moving forward. And when he spoke about the V8s and the V6s.
Yes, because if you look, that how many cars can you sit in at a time? You know, you got people who got 3 or 4 V8, not bought with their own money.
Right.
Bought with state money. And people might not see the difference, but it is a lot of money. It is a lot. I mean, when I heard him and when I read it, I was like, yes, it is true that necessity is the mother of invention. And I think that hardship brings common sense back to economic supervisors.
Right.
Yes, I think so. Because, for example, this e-levy, for example, when it was being considered, there were a few suggestions that let's go it a little so that we can capture more. And they failed to block an important loophole. I mean, the e-levy arguments were so divisive that they left a loophole where people will go and deal with the Momo operators and bypass the payment. So let's hope that the 1% and there's no, if you are sending 20 cities now, the e-levy 1% will get you. I mean, I think that was a good thing. You know, I think that is the implementation. And there must be some small work for citizen journalists. So people who are unemployed can be able to have their phones ready to take shots and put it out there.
And that's an interesting perspective you have in terms of the journalists or citizen journalists, as you call them. But quickly, what is your take when it comes to that debt restructuring, debt exchange, whatever name we want to call it? We had an interaction with Dr. John Kuma post the presentation of the budget, and basically there is going to be a haircut. What form it will take? So there is an imposition of a 30% haircut on foreign bonds. Now, this arrangement, what it means is that those who subscribe to these bonds will receive no interest for 2023. In 2024, they'll get 5%. In 2025, they'll get 10%. And then it's only in 2026 that this will be restored. It means for 4 years, there's going to be a haircut on these bonds. How do you react to that? Because a lot of people who pension off also subscribe to these. It is these coupons that they use to get their money at the end of a month or at the end of a quarter. This is going to impact them directly. So what does this mean for you, Bernice?
If I was somebody who was going to suffer such a haircut, I would sue the government. Because the arrangement of which I decided to go and put my money in there, there was no ifs or buts, or there were no possibilities. So I'll be surprised if 1 or 2 people decide to sue the government. And it will be interesting to see how the case will end. Because when the president said there will be no haircut, maybe he hadn't been advised by his finance minister, or the finance minister did not read through his script. Because I think that when you do that, you are injecting what I call lack of confidence and trust. So yes, I hope that somebody goes to court to see how it will be done. But the haircuts that have been put in, if the government will be able to even be fair then on certain, let me quote, pardon my language, silly imports. How do you import toothpicks? Some of these little things, and like I'm saying, for these things, they must be able to put it out. When it comes out, somebody should spend a huge amount of their time in prison. Because, when these things happen, you are in a democratic era. You are not in a military government, unconstitutional era that people cannot challenge or government will do certain things. the budget obviously has good intentions, but not at the expense of people who have trusted the system and have put them in. And I hope somebody goes to court on that.
Right, let's check out some other stories in the paper. 4 African presidents in Qatar for 2022 World Cup. And the world has gathered for the world's biggest festival in Qatar, the FIFA World Cup 2022, which is witnessing 32 teams from across the world battling it out for the heavyweight undisputed title as a World Cup winner. According to reports, over 20 heads of state were present at the opening event last Sunday, that is November the 20th, at Al Bayt Stadium, where the opening match between host Qatar and Ecuador took place. Ghana's President Akakpo is the latest president to have arrived in Qatar, African president, ahead of the Black Stars' opening game with Portugal. According to reports, Presidents Paul Kagame of Rwanda, Macky Sall of Senegal were officially invited by the Qatari government to take part in the event as well. We also know that President George Weah of Liberia is also there to watch his son, and there has been some questioning of whether he's there on state funds. That is there. There's also this story that I want to bring to the fore on gender, ending violence against women. 16 days activism begins. And it's a piece put together by FIDA Ghana's Noel Apia. I always like to highlight gender issues. You can check out details of that on page 13. But a pointed bit, as we commemorate this year's 16 days of activism to end violence against women from November 25 to December 10, what part are you playing as an individual or a group in the activism to end this canker? That's a question posed there that we can all take a look at. A central tone, lack of roads undermine development. That's Constituency Watch in the middle spread of the paper. But on the back page, gallant Black Stars lose to Portugal. Did you watch the match yesterday?
I did.
How did it, leave you feeling? For me, I was gutted, but I'll save my thoughts and let you share yours for now.
I was surprised that the referee did not go to the VAR.
Right.
From different angles. Rather, Ronaldo should have been given a yellow card for stimulation.
Right.
Clearly.
Because our player got his foot on the ball.
Yes. You see, when there was that contact, he started going down even before Salisu got close to him. So it was obvious that the referees and the VAR were awed by Ronaldo.
Mm.
But if you watch the different angles that the cameras put out, Ronaldo, when he had his leg when his leg touched the ball, he started going there before Salisu got there.
Right.
And the referees, I think, that were a bit dumb. If you want to help Ronaldo get a record of scoring in 5 consecutive World Cups, try and put up a show.
Right. So interesting point you make there, because Otoado says if someone scores a goal, congratulations. But this was really a gift, a special gift from the referee. And many people have contested that goal and why the referee did not use VAR. But what's the problem? Do you feel that Africans are always cheated? We are always getting the short end of the stick, and we have to rise and do something about that?
I suspect that if it wasn't Ronaldo and any other Portugal player, the referee would have gone for VAR. The referee would have gone for VAR. Because Ronaldo himself, when he got up, he had a look of guilt. And I'm saying that they were not being intelligent. If you wanted to help you make the record, go to VAR, maybe invite the referee who have the final say.
Right.
But it was clear that they were being unfair to us.
Mm.
It was clear. But if there be any other Portuguese player, and I think that one thing that I think the coaches must tell our players, the gentleman who scored Ghana's second goal.
Bukari Osman, I think.
Yeah, Bukari.
Right.
His second goal had left us with 1 goal.
Yes.
And mentally, instead of picking the ball and taking it back to the center circle, he had gone to the corner banner flag to try and get funds from the crowd. Sheer ignorance. Because minutes count. Minutes count. But I think that I was proud of the team. You know, for all the World Cup that we've gone,
right?
We've sent the youngest ever team,
right?
And I hope that if we keep them together, I mean, Portugal has a lot of good players. They played very well, and I think that, and I'm happy that Uruguay and South Korea played a draw.
Right.
It gives us a chance.
It opens up the group and gives us a chance. But we succumbed to 2 quick-fire goals, and both of them in there. You cannot miss the fact that Baba Rahman, who has been having quite a long loan spell, though attached to Chelsea, people are complaining about the squad selection. Otto Addo had said before this that when for example, Joseph Pinto was not, on the Black Stars team, that he's not the only one who does the selection. We've been told time without number about the biases and the things that come to play. But are those beginning to bite us? Because someone like Baba Rahman, and I'm not being, I'm not going after an individual, but 2 of our goals had to do with him. And you ask yourself, was it up to the coach to take him off at a point? What was Daniel Odoi doing? I mean, there are so many, issues we can raise. Yes, we are rooting for the Black Stars, but what is not going well is not going well. Quick take on that, and we move on to other papers.
I think that I was quite surprised when I saw even the invitation for Baba Rahman. This is somebody who is in his 7th and last year at Chelsea. And he's gone on 7 loans. That means every year they send him out. If he was that good, people would have bought him off Chelsea's books, or Chelsea would have sold him and gotten some money. The simple fact is that Chelsea don't consider him good, and they don't have any takers for him. So, you see, a coach, if you decide on something, have you ever heard of a player being permanently sacked from appearing in the Black Stars before? No. So he'll pay the price for it. So, I mean, if they decide to dispense with services, fine. Clearly, I'm not a coach, then you are not a coach, but we all see that nobody sells the jewel in the crown. If Baba Rahman has been good at Chelsea, your 7th year, and you are out on your 7th loan, and you've gone to Reading twice, a 1st division team in England, why don't they take your money and buy you? Because obvious that, I mean, he was the league. Not that, I mean, the person would have played better, but from his record, the coach should have seen. We've got other good defenders there. I mean, I was expecting they would start with the English Lamptey. I thought they were going to start with him. But it's a coach decision, and he will pay the consequences.
Right. Let's get into other papers. And 2023 budget economic policy, government plans massive expenditure cuts, projects to spend 205,431 million Ghana cedis to finance budget. And that's in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Some highlights in there. 2023 macroeconomic targets, overall real GDP growth of 2.8%, non-oil real GDP growth of 3.0%, and December inflationary rate of 18.9%. And some people are doubtful about that. Primary balance on commitment basis of a surplus of 0.7% of GDP. Then gross international reserves to cover not less than 3.3 months of import cover. There are other medium-term macroeconomic targets. Overall real GDP to grow at an average of 4.3%. Non-oil GDP to grow at an average of 4%. Inflation to be within the target band of 8.2%. That's another bit that people find to be unrealistic. The primary balance on commitment basis to average 1.3% of GDP in the 2023 to 2026 period, and gross international reserves to cover at least 4 months of imports. So that is that. There's also, I'm testifying to have justice served, prosecution witness. That story on page 3. Lotto agent before court for 143,154 Ghana cedi theft. Then, in other stories, So this still keeps up. And then Ghana start World Cup on sloppy note. That's how the Ghanaian Times newspaper captures it. And that's it for the Ghanaian Times newspaper. But let's get into the Daily Guide newspaper. Government freezes public civil service hiring bans and also bans V8 and V6. That story is on page 3. So maybe just some highlights. And Ken Oforiatta announced a reduction of the headline rate. Let me get the bit about... so I just wanted to... So the minister disclosed the total revenue and grants are projected at 143,956 million Ghana cedis. But there's this point about the civil service that I just wanted to get to. Maybe I'll find it and get back to it later. But basically the summary of it, a freeze on public and civil service hiring in some sectors. And of course, we've already spoken about the V8 and V6 situation. Let's work together to revive the economy. That's on page 6. No hampers, calendars, diaries for this year. And Aisha Huang's son caged over 250 bullets. Now, this call to help revive the economy, what do you think ordinary Ghanaians can do in this situation? It has been likened, I heard Dr. Kasilato Forsen, ranking member of the Finance Committee, say this is akin to what we experienced in Ghana in 1983. That just tells you how troubling the situation is. We're talking about Rawlings chain back then. If we're back in that situation, then you know what it means. What do you make of that situation? What can the ordinary Ghanaian do in these times to help shore up our own economy? What do you think?
Well, I think that basically we need to be a bit innovative. If you look on our front page, for example, I mean, necessity is the mother of invention. The Bamias announced that the government was going for gold for oil barter deal. That will save us quite a chunk of forex. You know, people will get gold, and by the first quarter of 2023, this will take off. Then we are in a worse shape than other countries. If you look at, for example, Nigeria, and going back to the Rawlings chain, that is 83, many of our viewers were young then at that time. In Nigeria now, you go and queue with your vehicles for 2 days before you get fuel.
Right.
If I think diesel has gone down from 120 cedis a gallon to 100 now. If the government does not allow it to come, we are going to have a situation where black marketeers will go and smuggle fuel, and they'll come and sell it for 200 cedis a gallon. And on the funny side of it, when people go to parties of the rich in Nigeria, they are not giving souvenirs of either watch or phone. They are giving 2 gallons of fuel as souvenir. That shows you how extreme it is. And when the measures to cut down on things, for example, the civil servant brought a very innovative idea that if they are not going to get 60% increase,
right, then
they must work on maybe 2 or 3 days. And I think that the government can have a look at it, that if the 60% the civil servants want for next year is not possible. One, I think there's overemployment in civil service already. They can have a system, and I'm sure if you go to many of the positions, there's more than one person there. This month, you will come 3 times a week.
Right.
Next month, you will come 2 times. And I think that it will be better, they will save on transportation. So let's give it a try. Let's think outside the box. That if they want a 60% increase in transport fares, let them go on shift. You work 3 days a week for this month. Your colleague works 2 days. The next month you will take. And let's see how we keep the bend a year from now.
Let's look at a few papers as we wrap the conversation. Republic Press, government freezes jobs. And Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta has announced a freeze on employment for civil servants effective January 2023. That was what I was alluding to. And then VAR out of sight as bad refereeing helps Portugal. That's in Republic Press. There's also The Finder, Economic Enclave, rice, tomato, maize, poultry, etc. to be produced on 110,000 acres of land. Again, for me, Bernice, I'm going to be blunt. When I hear of these things, I want to see them running and contributing to cutting down our imports before I give it any credence. I've heard these too many times, too many stories told without any proper ending. There's also all 2.5 million extremely poor people to benefit from LEAP school feeding grant to be increased as well. Let me, just before we wrap the conversation on economics, at least, also add Finance Minister expresses gratitude to MPs. That is in the Ghanaian Publisher newspaper. Quick reactions, if any, to that, and then we'll go on to the last 2 or 3 papers.
I think that James alluding that, quote, I hope the president keeps his promises. You know, the MPP MP are going to bucket the budget, and from what I think that the president said they should allow Ken to present it, they should be in, and I'm sure once the IMF negotiations are concluded, maybe the president may accept Ken's resignation based on ill health. I mean, the way things are going now, yes, the MPs have shown respect to the president, the party, on which they can come to parliament, but they should also bear in mind that they have constituents, and I'm hoping that maybe things will be done in a better way. Clearly, when things are good, there's no need for anybody to be sacrificed.
Right.
But when there's a problem, somebody has to be sacrificed. That's how it is.
Well, when you look at the new Weekend Crusading Guide, the stories there are stories that we saw yesterday or have seen today. So I'll just skip that. But there's this interesting one, Teacher Education Journal. It's said to be Ghana's first teacher education journal. And this is my first time seeing it, but it says, communique on national dialogue presented to Minister for Education. There's also, I am committed to expanding UCC infrastructure. President Akufo-Addo says so. There is also increased feeding fee of student teachers. Prinkoff president to Ghana or to government. And then Fati Isifu, Ghana Teacher Prize, a free and fair award scheme. And free and fair is in quotation marks. Final comments, Bernice, as we wrap the conversation.
Well, I think that I'll appeal to all Ghanaians that one, we should mind our utterances. And in about 2 years, we will have the opportunity to go to the polls if we think the government in power is not doing well. We vote them out. When you have, my analysis of 2020 is that a third of Ghanaian voters are swinging. And when that happens, it tells you that if the government is not doing well, but threatening the government, we will do that, channel those energies into campaigning against the government. 2 years is a long time, so we should avoid situations when there will be a clash with the police and so on. Things are tight, but the voter has his choice.
Right.
So 2 years is not too far away.
Bernice, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Thank you for the courtesies, and we wish you the best of the day, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a blessed weekend, all to our viewers.
Thank you. Bernice is editor of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. But I'm sure you want to know, if you missed the match, what happened, what transpired yesterday. Some sloppiness. The midfield did not hold. Baba Rahman did his thing, and we lost by 3-2. But a good account of ourselves we gave, and scoring the first goals by an African nation at Qatar 2022. More on that and other stories in sports up next. Do stay.
The morning after the Black Stars of Ghana had a rather bizarre start to the World Cup ongoing in Qatar, but we continue here to see what the remaining matches will give us. Good morning and welcome to Sports on AM. So the Black Stars began their World Cup campaign with a setback after conceding 2 goals in the space of 3 minutes to lose 3-2 to Portugal. Ghana, however, became the first African team to score a goal at this year's tournament. And Captain Andrew Didiayu, who was on target in the encounter, has assured Ghanaians the Black Stars will bounce back strongly in their next match against South Korea.
Our game plan was working really well, but in the first half we were not giving them enough tread behind. But we were solid. They were having a lot of the ball, but they were having clear chances. We know what kind of squad they are. We didn't see the penalty, but from outside it looked a bit, I don't know, because I didn't see it on video, and the penalty changed the course of the game. But after that we came back into the game, 1-1, and then we conceded 2 goals in in the space of 3-5 minutes. That changed the game. That shows that high level we can't switch off. But I'm very confident what I saw. I have a lot of belief. And I believe that if we continue like this and we tweak in some little things, we can hopefully get the 3 points in the next game.
And obviously it was disappointing to concede the penalty, but then you showed a lot of heart to get the equaliser. What did you learn about your team in adversity?
I know my team. I know how we got to the World Cup. It was very difficult and we went through so many difficult periods. So I always believe that we can always come out of difficult situations. Close to it today, we nearly came out from a tough one. But we know that when we do such mistakes versus a team like Portugal, you pay it cash. But we're quite solid, we showed a lot. We need to stay calm, go home, relax, correct what we did wrong, and increase our performance on the next game.
And what do you think went wrong when you conceded the second and third goals? Because it happened so quickly.
I think when we conceded the second goal, straight away we conceded the third one. We're still, I think, down to the second goal. But it's football, and at this level we can't let that happen to us. But we need to lift our heads up. This game is past. We cannot come back to it. I think we just need to correct the technical staff and our boss who do the job, and we need you to rest now and get ready for a big game on I think Monday or Tuesday.
And you got the late goal with Bukari against a great side like Portugal. What do you take going forward?
Shows that if we go forward, if we put men forward, if we press, we can make chances. So we need to continue. We need to try and score goals but concede less. That's what's important at this level. What's important is not to concede. So we played well, lacked a few things, but I'm very confident and I believe in
Well, the commentary and explications around this game continues, and so we took to the street to hear from fans after that painful defeat to Portugal, and there were numerous views centered around what happened here. And so we were at La Palm Royal Beach Hotel for the viewing, and we get to hear from some Ghanaians after what happened at the 974 Stadium yesterday.
To have a touch in the Portugal penalty area. And it's a moment of World Cup history. Portugal in front. And Cristiano Ronaldo.
It was a good match. Ghana did well. Portugal started off very good, and then the boys of the Ghanaian team also tried to equalize. And the last attempt to score was spectacular. I mean, like, the Portugal team did very good. Obviously, they're world class, and Ghana was rated last. But like, we did well. Like, the team really put up a good show.
Okay, so in the beginning I was a bit shaky, but getting closer to the game I was really excited because of the lineup, and I predicted a 2-1 win for Ghana. But the second half was really crazy. I think this is the game of the tournament so far. I enjoyed every bit of it. I think the changes the coach made after our goal switched up the whole tempo, and then the players lost a bit of focus. And this is the World Cup, you don't lose focus because you'll be punished dearly. But I think we took a lot from the game. Our next opponent should be careful. South Korea, they should be very careful because they are coming with his Kim. I'm better to Kim.
Also mixed feelings among Ghanaians who got to watch the game in Accra. But away in Qatar, where my senior colleagues are present, we also got to speak to some onlookers and fans who thought Ghana could have done something better for the whole nation. So Gary L. Smith has been speaking to some fans as well in Qatar.
Ghana. What do you think? Go again. What do you think? I think they gave their best. We showed too much respect for the Portuguese. We could have done way better. And then the substitutions wasn't on point, to be honest. And of course, Ronaldo's penalty was no penalty. Let's be frank about that. It was no penalty. But next time, let's do better. Let's push. Let's not wait and defend all the time. Let's try and create more time. And I think we can go. At least we can go beyond the mistakes.
Well, Gary, for me, I think the boys did well. I was expecting to see something better from Baba Rahman since he started. Well, I don't want to single out any player, but I think the team gave their best. I'm hoping that the next two matches, at least, we'll give it all and win, so that we can move on to the next game. I expect to see Kamal being started next game. And also, I think the coach gave them too much respect. I mean, if we had opened up an attack, I'm sure we would have won the match. But anyway, we'll lose hope, we'll continue, and I'm sure the next two games, Ghana is going to qualify.
What do you think of the game?
I mean, my thoughts are, I feel like Coach could have been braver from the get-go. You know, I think he started the schedule right back because of his defensive capabilities. And I thought that he should have started Lansah. So, I mean, in the first half, we saw some of the players not having lots of urgency. And I thought that maybe he could have made the changes earlier. So, I mean, that's basically.
How are we winning the next match? 2-0. 2-0. Go.
Well, I think it was a good game. We couldn't take our chances, but I think we have potential for the next game. I think the better team won.
I think the better team.
Yeah, because
we didn't do bad. We did better than expected.
They took their chances. So, but it was a good game. I think.
It was a good game.
How would you grade the Black Stars over 10?
I'll give it a 6.5.
Oh, 6.5. Oh.
No, the next game, I think they'll do better. And then for this game, I'll give it a 6.5.
And so away from the fans, where onlookers also had something to say. Now we get to talk tactics and what really went on during that space of 90 minutes. And so George Addo Jr. and Gary L. Smith took to give us this report and a vivid account of what really transpired between Ghana and Portugal.
Stars have lost the first game in Group H by 3-2. An interesting game, really. Strange calls, you may call it. Some very questionable refereeing decisions, to be fair. And, well, in attack it, in terms of the decisions by the technical team, there is a whole gamut to really talk about.
And because that is some analysis away in Qatar. But back home, we'll be speaking to Coach Nana Agyemang and my colleague Muftau Nabila to also give us their own narration of what really transpired yesterday. Is that what we thought Ghana could have done better, or that is all they could have done for us, and we should have to take that result in good faith and look forward to the next game. So I'll be joined shortly by Coach Nana Agyemang and Muftau Nabila, just so we had our own discourse here. So, Coach, if you can hear me, good morning.
The referees.
Coach, good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Coach. It's good to hear from you this morning.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Ghana played Portugal yesterday in that all-important opener. We had a lot of expectations going into that game. A lot thought we should have measured our expectations, but the Black Stars also came out and did their very best. In your perspective as a tactician or as a coach, what do you make of Ghana's outing yesterday?
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I want to say I respect George so much because he touched on a very important issue and said something that I was going to say today. And it's to do with Dede Ayew. You can pull me back up on that a bit later, but I respect him so much for being so bold to come out and say what he did. Let me tell you this, from the lineup and the formation, I could see that basically we're set up to fail. Because if you include the goalkeeper, 7 other players in that squad were all defenders. They were all defenders. We were playing 1 defender in goal, because he's a goalkeeper, 5 across the back. Partey and Samed, they're both defensive midfield players.
Yeah.
Right, and then after that, who do you have left? You have Ayew, you have Kudus, and you have Inaki. Right. So we only really had 1 striker up front. Right. We had 8 defenders, including the keeper. We had 1 striker up front, and we had 2 players who, well, Andre started up front, really, didn't he? Andre was Inaki's partner. Yeah. He's not a striker. He's not a striker, but he does have a very good eye for goal. He's a guy he can meet the expectations, at least 1 goal matches like this, and he showed us that he could do that. But apart from that, everything else was improvised, because it's an improvisation to put Andre up front, and it's certainly an improvisation to have Kudus on the left-hand side of midfield. Right, so from the very beginning, we set the lineup to fail, to absorb as much pressure as possible from the Portuguese. And once you sit there absorbing pressure, eventually the goal will end up in the back of the net. Now, Inaki Williams wasn't in the game because we still haven't figured out how to provide him the passes that he needs.
Yeah.
So he was flirting in and out of the game, more out than anything else. Andre had burnt after about 30 minutes. And the issue with Andre is he scored a goal, but actually I wouldn't have had him on that long anyway. So he wouldn't have scored if it was me. And that would have proved to have been poor judgment by myself. But I'm saying to you, because I agree 100% with George, his contribution was minimal. Apart from the goal, his contribution was minimal in the position where he was playing. For me, if I start him up front with Inaki Williams, I'm giving him 30 minutes and I need to see the ball in the back of the net. Because after 30 minutes, his energy levels are on a serious decline. Not even the break at half time can revitalize him. He's just on a straightforward decline. And you can't stop that. As you grow, these things happen. These things happen. So I would have subbed him before that. Now, when he did get subbed, it was the wrong time. Because we're just celebrating a goal. It takes a while to calm back down after you score a goal. It takes a few minutes to really calm back down and focus back on the job. Because if you look at a lot of matches, after goals are scored, goals are also conceded. Because the players are still in a euphoric mood. We go and we take him off at that point. He's actually still celebrating on the bench with everybody else when they turn and realize Portugal has scored. And what happened there? A poor touch from Jordan Ayew, and things happened. The ball was in the back of the net. That's where it came from, within a minute or so. The second goal too, also a poor touch again from Jordan Ayew, and then that's second goal. And he was the substitute. He was one of the substitutes that came on. Now, we should have waited before we made that substitution. Let everything come back down, and then once we've established the calm, then if you want to make the substitution, you make the substitution. I don't agree in Kudus being substituted because he was one of the brightest sparks. And really, when you substitute Kudus and you bring in Jordan Ayew, it's not a like-for-like substitution. You're not going to get the same work rate in terms of offensively towards the Portuguese goal as you would if you just left Kudus on. It wasn't a like-for-like substitution. It added something different to the game, whereby we needed to maintain the same momentum.
Yeah.
And indeed, his first 2 touches led to 2 goals by Portugal. You understand?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to look at. The penalty itself, look, Salisu is a professional. And if you watch the Premier League week in, week out, as soon as the attacking player gets a toe on the ball, you will see in many instances, the attacking player gets his toe on the ball knowing that the next thing that's going to happen is either the defender clashes with him or clatters him or the goalkeeper clatters him. It's an automatic penalty. It's an automatic penalty. And one thing I don't like is when we start saying, oh, we're robbed, VAR this, VAR that. But no, none of these officials are not supposed to be in your team. Yes, I do understand fair play. But look, you set yourselves up to fail. We are losing 3-2 and we've lost 3-2. And now we turn around and talk about we're robbed. 2010, we were saying the same thing. Meanwhile, Suarez did the right thing. Handle the ball on the line. Don't let it cross the line. He did the right thing. You look at that foul. We complain all the time. Salisu is experienced to know.
Okay.
Look at him. He's experienced to know. Once he goes in, it's going to be a foul. It's going to be given as a penalty.
Thank you very much for your time this morning, Coach. I'm sure we'll get to talk about Ghana's performance in subsequent games as their competition wears off. But before this game, we spoke to Muftar Nabil Abdullah, who was on grounds and very positive, together with some fans, that we were going to get the best of Portugal. But here we are, the morning after 3-2 down. Muftar, if you can hear me, good morning. Muftar, good morning. Okay, so we are trying to get in touch with Muftar again. I think his connection is not the best as of now. But Muftar, okay, so we'll get to speak to Muftar in subsequent bulletins to tell us what really transpired, where he was yesterday and up until this time, to see what is really going on, how Ghana is preparing to face South Korea in our next game. Well, this is all sports and time would allow us. My name is Abigail Sanasosu. Let's do this again.
Welcome back on the AM show. And after all the sporting action, I give you my blunt thoughts, Ghana, for this morning. I've titled it, Of Unrestrained Unemployment, a Massive Housing Deficit, and a Debt Stock Crippling the Nation. How we got here. Dear friends and fellow citizens of our land, I wish our leaders weren't so petty this often, but they are. Sometime in 2014, then candidate Akufo-Addo posted this right here behind me. Nana Akufo-Addo, 7th July 2014. No water, no electricity, no petrol, no money, no jobs, no mercy, no World Cup victory. Hashtag Ghana. What you wish upon others, you see, will someday find you too. Let's be wary of that. Our Black Stars lost yesterday, contrary to our prayerful wishes. While there are many negatives we can glean from the game, there are positives too. We scored Africa's first 2 goals at the tournament. We didn't suffer a whitewashing, even while facing the world's 9th best team, and we saved face for our continent. That said, we have a mountain of work to do to stay put in Qatar. I hope and pray we're able to cross that bridge and make Ghana proud. We need such an upliftment of our spirits, especially in these scarily menacing times. Now, while what happens to our black stars in faraway Qatar affects our national pride, the soft power we could wield by way of international reputation and the recall we could trigger in the minds of people across the world in terms of whatever mark we may make in Qatar, whether for the good or the bad, there are, however, even bigger matters of concern right here at home. Burning issues that impact every Amakwejo and Ya. I'm talking of the basic bread and butter issues, including our debt pileup, the housing debacle our leaders have spawned, and the insipidness of the 2023 budget. Ghana 4. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta told us recently that our debt stock had risen to about 450 billion Ghana cedis. Of that amount, this MPP administration alone has borrowed a staggering 330 plus billion, all by itself, eclipsing all the borrowing by all previous governments put together. In defense of such borrowing, Ken Ofori-Atta told us we had to take a look at what the money had been used for, rather than how much had been borrowed. One oft-touted example is the one district, one factory policy. Quite recently, Nana Akufo-Addo, an NPP stalwart, looked us all in the face and told us that 1D, 1F had been a raving success, even while it had not taken a shred off our import burden. A fact horribly exposed by our recent currency shortfalls and the president's calls for import substitution. Sad to say, though, many of Nana Akufo-Addo's assertions did not check out. In Wale Wale, he claimed there was a watermelon processing factory, producing watermelon juice and employing some 300 people. When media teams went there, the fittings on the building, whose ceiling had not even been installed, were not done, and there was not even a ghost there to scare anybody away. He again claimed that in Savelugu there was a rice factory in place employing some 118 people. Once more, media people went there to investigate the matter. We found an abandoned, uncompleted building, and no more. No rice, no workers, just rodents and lizards. I don't know whether these animals are the ones that will produce the rice. Maybe Nana Akufo-Addo can explain to us all better. Why do we do this to ourselves? In Ghana today, over 1.2 million children are not in school. And in spite of all this, Ken Ofori-Atta, the finance minister, still holding on to an untenable position, has the gall, the temerity to tell us building a national cathedral, on which we have so far expended over 339 million Ghana cedis, with practically nothing to show, is a necessity. And that it is for the nation? Which nation, I ask? The masses who have rejected that farce of a cathedral? Please, Mr. Finance Minister, find something better to say. In the midst of all this unmitigated chaos, the 2023 budget, to make matters worse, has brought the ordinary Ghanaian and the business community absolutely no relief. If anything, it has only exacerbated our plight. Our governments, time and again, have burnt the poor, making them suffer the consequences of their ineptitude and mismanagement. Look at the e-levy situation, for example. You lower the rate by only 0.5% and then withdraw the 100 Ghana cedi threshold altogether. Then you slap on a 2.5 percentage point increment on VAT, which is unavoidable. How cruel can we be to the have-nots? How insensitive can we possibly be? Are we content with robbing Peter to pay Paul? Are we? And don't we all suffer the consequences in the end? But it doesn't end there. It gets even worse. After the presentation of the budget statement yesterday and interacting with Deputy Finance Minister John Kuma, he explained that government was set to suspend interest payments for domestic bondholders and impose a 30% haircut on foreign bonds. Now, under this debt restructuring arrangement, as we know it, domestic bondholders will receive no interest for 2023. In 2024, they'll get 5%. In 2025, they'll get 10%. Domestic bondholders, per what he divulged to us, can only expect to start receiving their full interest in 2026. That's a good 4 years from now. They will be paying for some incompetent people's sins for 4 unbearable years. Why is that such a gargantuan problem? It is egregiously insensitive to many vulnerable people trying to keep body and soul together. Crucial among them, pensioners, for whom these coupon payments constitute their main source of regular income. Take that away and you're basically telling them to go hungry. And this is what we're constantly told is a caring government? Interestingly, all this comes at a time when in the United Kingdom, regardless of their own economic turbulence, the Bank of England took action just a few weeks ago to protect and preserve pensioners' incomes. Here, our government is doing the exact opposite. But that's not all. Just contemplate that if you're earning 1,000 Ghana cedis, whether as a worker or a pensioner, with 40.4% inflation, it basically means you are getting 404 Ghana cedis shaved off. This alternatively implies that while you earn 1,000 Ghana cedis, your money is only actually worth 596 Ghana cedis in real purchasing power terms. Today, as the Ghana Statistical Service data reveals, 1.1 million males aged 15 years and above lost their employment status between the first and second quarters of 2022. In the Upper East region alone, 7 out of every 10, that is 69% of males employed in the first quarter, were no longer employed in the second quarter. That is the highest rate in the country, followed also by the Northeast region with 43.9% or 4.4, that is to strike an average, 4 out of 10 who do not have work. National Security Minister Albert Kamdapa himself at a recent Information Ministry interaction confirmed that some 2 million Ghanaian youth are unemployed. 2 million. And that is even what our data captures. How about those we don't know of? Those who add to that teeming and wholesome and active bulge every day. That same Ghana Statistical Service data also reveals the mean hourly earnings for males in the second quarter were 9 cedis 9 pesos, falling slightly from the 11 cedis in the first quarter. We've raised the minimum wage marginally compared to inflation. Yet people are earning far lower than even the 13 Ghana cedis and 53 pesos per the 2022 minimum wage. That tells you that times are desperately hard and that rather than go hungry, people would scrape and eke out a living, seeing that something at least is better than nothing. But we could have avoided being here. Ofriata tells us Ghanaians that after they started the OPPP challenge of always castigating borrowing, borrowing is in fact a good thing depending on what you use the money for. Fair point. But that brings me to my point precisely. What essentially has this government used the 330 billion Ghana cedis that Ken Ofriata himself confirms has been borrowed so far for? Have we been finessed as a nation by crooked politicians we voted into power to steer our nation into prosperity? Is this what we get? Have we been hoodwinked? It's a question we should ask ourselves. Let me go back to my slides before I conclude. Speaking of exactly that, youth unemployment. Look here. According to the 2021 Youth Unemployment Survey, if you look at the population, 15 years and older, this is the national level, 13.4%. Males constitute 11.6%, females 15.5% of that figure. When you add it up, when you look at 15 to 35 years, the national level is 19.7%. It goes as high as 17.4 for males and 22.3 for females, even higher for them. Then when you come down, when the stratification is measured down to 9 years, 15 to 24 years, the national level is 32.8%, 29.3% male, 36.7% female. Now, the effect of inflationary rates on salaries. I gave the scenario of 1,000 Ghana cedis. If you're earning 3,000 Ghana cedis, as of October 2022, with the inflationary rate of 40.4%, you are losing that, 1,788 Ghana cedis. And so this is what you are getting, and this is the value loss, 1,212 Ghana cedis. If you're earning 4,000, your salary, this is what you get, 2,384. What you lose is the whopping 1,616. And if you're earning 5,000, so look at that. I've done 1,000 initially, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. You get 2,980 and you lose a whole 2,020 cedis. Let's go on to the next slide. And if you look at our 2023 budget, when you look at the tax reviews, again, the current rate of VAT is 12.5. We're proposing raising it to 15%, 2.5 percentage points. Why? Next slide. Now look at these. When I'm done, I'll give you a bit of a breakdown. This is what someone bought recently. Taxes on bread, brown bread. Look at that. One, and look at the cost. 16 cedis, 95 pesos. But look at the taxes. Look at that. Total, GEFL, NHIL, 2.5%. COVID, why are we still taking this levy? COVID-19 levy, 1%. Look at the total there. Look at VAT. So look at how much is added on just what? Brown bread. The original cost of the bread is 14 cedis, 21 pesos. Adding tax components will work out to what? 2 cedis and 74 pesos, which will raise the payable amount to a whopping 16 cedis, 95 pesos. If you decide to purchase 5 loaves for your household, it means you'll be paying 13 cedis, 70 pesos as taxes on that alone. Now, consumers ordinarily do not pay much attention to such invisible tax handles on the products we buy. But the hard truth is that we are paying far too much for basic necessities without realizing it, even in the midst of an economic crisis. Now, to wrap, let me go to my next slide. Housing. I made mention of housing. It is defined as unaffordable if more than 30% of monthly or annual incomes of a household is spent on housing. That's according to the UN Habitat's definition. But aren't most of us doing that? Next slide. If you look at the Sagleme issue, look at the parliamentary approval, October 2012, loan agreements from Credit Suisse International. Loan amount $200 million, estimated housing units 5,000, construction firm Constructora OAS Limited. Now we are saying we are giving it out to private developers because we can't handle the situation. But look at our housing deficit over time. 2010, it stood at 1.7 million. Look at what it stands at now. 300,000 people have been added. We are now looking at a whopping 2 million people. When you look at the housing conditions in Ghana, this is conventional housing, brick and mortar, more like what we're used to, 78.7%. But look at the others. Metal, so it could even be a container, 8%. Kiosks, 2.8%. Wooden entities, 9.7%. Others, 0.9%. And then finally, you look at what we are expending on a national cathedral in the midst of all this chaos. 339 million Ghana cedis. That is just for now what we've pumped into it. The equivalent of $58.14 million. You see, there is a saying, as I end, that the one who beats a path does not know the portion behind him is crooked. It is onlookers who will tell him. Mr. President, the national path you are beating has gone horribly askew. These are terrible times for your people. Unfortunately, you and your team, instead of giving us some succor, some respite, keep heaping heavy burdens on us. The latest budget is testament to that. What else can I say? Since you and your team have stubbornly chosen the path of ignominy, I can only wish you the best and hope that something turns out well for all of us. I'm telling you, Mr. President, that you and your team are losing your grip, if you've not already lost it, that is, on the people. If this penury and misery continue, you will have no one to blame but yourselves if any worse evils befall us. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I say all these things because I am extremely passionate about Ghana and what her future, intricately tied to ours, holds. These are my blunt thoughts for you, served raw, hot, unedited, undiluted. As always, God richly bless our motherland Ghana and make her great and strong. Welcome back on the AM show. We kickstart our big stories, and of course, since we've already spoken about sports, we're going to be getting into the economy and the budget statement for 2023. Let me say a very good morning to Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I nearly called you my pizza CBD.
You're used to having me at this time.
Did you notice the pause? I paused just a little before I mentioned
because you're
your name.
Mischievous, I assumed it was one of your things. Good morning.
But you're rocking it this morning.
Thank you.
It's a lovely outfit.
Thank you.
So before we go over the phone lines and everything, what are your takeaways from yesterday?
The income budget, rechristened Sika Pedidi budget by the minority in Parliament. So, I mean, we've gone over the highlights of the budget, Benjamin, and the biggest question on my mind really is, does this reduce the economic burden on the Ghanaian? Because for many people, that's what they were looking forward to. Will things be made easier for me, or will I have to brace myself for the worst? People were excited about the e-levy until they were reminded of the fact that the 100 cedi threshold was taking off. A few other points on the bonds, which a lot of people are concerned about. We've had people reach out to us personally as journalists to tell us about their experiences when they go to disinvest and what they're told about their capital being reduced after some recalculation, and people are already upset by it. So we'll need more clarity on that. We just heard the Deputy Finance Minister talk about the fact that we'll get more on that when the debt restructuring program is outlined. But Benjamin, for me, the biggest question is, does this really help the Ghanaian? Talk about VAT. How do these all translate into how you feel in your pocket, how you're able to manage your home, how you're able to manage your business? We'll see what the experts think as we look at it in the general sense and holistically, Benjamin.
Well, let's kickstart the conversation. The minority has described it as a competitive budget and one that will bring untold misery to the ordinary Ghanaian. But let's get on to the connections and speak to Professor Godfred Bokpin. He is with the University of Ghana Business School. He joins us for that conversation. Prof, a very good morning to you.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to your panelists and then your cherished viewers.
Okay, Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah, my colleague, is also here. She'll also be interacting with you. But let's kickstart the conversation.
Good morning to us also.
Right. Let's start from the most basic point. What is your general, fundamental, appreciation of what happened yesterday, the budget presentation?
Oh, I would say I was disappointed.
Disappointed?
But yes, disappointed, but not surprised.
Okay.
I was disappointed because government failed to communicate truth to Ghanaians on time.
Okay.
And created the impression that what independent-minded people were putting out there was not true. They created a false confidence and hope that things weren't as bad as the data suggested. I'm disappointed because you know what? When we say this, it's not like we don't like Ghana. We are on course to create a financially repressed society. That's where we are heading towards. We are presenting 2023 budget on the premises that COVID-19 has affected the government and Russia, Ukraine. But COVID did not only affect the government. COVID affected individuals and households. COVID affected private sector firms in as much as it also affected the government. Now, if you look across Africa, emerging markets, and advanced countries, and you look at the recovery measures they are thinking through and putting in place, Ghana is in the opposite direction. Why am I saying so? Since COVID came, if you look at government tax measures so far, it looks as though households and businesses had exceptional resilience to COVID-19 other than government. And therefore, government resolve to balance its books must excessively be loaded on households and firms. The strength of every economy lies in the strength of households' balance sheet and the private sector. We are eroding that. I will get into a bit more specific here. When we have concluded that the future is actually digitization, that the digital economy is what holds the key to greater economic transformation and inclusive productivity growth, then they introduced e-levy. Since COVID came, government has introduced COVID levy, sanitation levy, and all of that. Then we saw how government was preparing to further financially repressed Ghanaians when they decided to treat Get Fund, NHLs, and the others as straight levies. And that created a kind of false hope that our VAT was perhaps the lowest in Africa at 12.5%, when the average probably was around 16.4% or so. But to the final consumer, VAT is not 12.5%. To the final consumer, there is all these trade levies. And to make matters worse, government now has also increased the VAT rate, rather than exploring efficiency within the existing tax or tax types. Studies have shown that when your VAT rate is 18% or above 18%, it significantly inhibits growth. In other words, it becomes counterproductive. So if you look at effectively the implication of the VAT and the treatment of straight levies, it effectively puts the VAT burden on the consumer in excess of 20%. What that does is to contribute to the high productive cost base of doing business and actually defeat every attempt to build savings mobilization. When it happens that way, it's going to be difficult for the average Ghanaian to actually build reserves and take advantage of the limited economic opportunity that will be created. There is no future in that. What that does is to undermine private sector competitiveness as we go deeper into the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. I fear for Ghana. Instead of government...
Did you just say you feared for Ghana?
Of course. It's not, we are not saying... This is not like saying you are a prophet of doom or something. The data is clear. Can you tell me where government has listed programs, interventions? Can they demonstrate to us the impact of such programs in the last 6 years? How many people have we lifted out of poverty? How have these programs narrowed inequality?
Right.
We are interested in impact, not just, look, intervention here, 1D, 1F, 1D, youth start. What is the impact? Over 14 million Ghanaians are multidimensionally poor.
And those are some stark points you're making. My colleague, Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah, will come in because we still have to look at the e-levy. We still have to look at VAT, go deeper into the VAT situation. But I'd just like to find out from you before she goes to those points. I was just, sharing my blunt thoughts today, and brown bread, when you buy one at 16 cedis, almost 17 cedis, you're paying a tax component of over 2 cedis, 70 pesos. And guess what? In there, we also have the COVID-19 levy, still at 1%. Yes. How relevant is that in these times?
We made it look as though COVID only affected us. Okay. And we are unsure when COVID levy will go, probably as a permanent tax handle or so. But what makes it worse is where, when the private sector messes up, the private sector is asked to pay the price. When the government messes up, the government gets away with it. The government is getting away with it. The president is still keeping that large government size, which is counterproductive. This is insensitivity at the highest level. I'm sorry to say this. There's nothing burden sharing in this.
Right, Prof. So, at this stage in the Ghanaian economy, we know what is happening. We're going to the IMF. We've heard of a freeze on employment in the public sector, hiring for the civil service. We know how this is directly linked to the IMF. We're expecting to see a more detailed debt restructuring program. What would you say should have been government's approach, considering the fact that there may be conditions that the IMF would want to see included in this budget before approving our support program? And considering that, yes, indeed, we need to alleviate the burden that the Ghanaian is suffering, How should government have gone about this for you?
You know what? The point you are making is the price we are paying for a government that failed to listen to advice when it matters most. The delay in making the call to the IMF, government denial of the reality, that's the price we are paying for.
So, Prof, are you saying that because government didn't heed calls from experts and analysts like yourself and took a late decision to go to the IMF, there's really nothing we could have done about this budget? It is the best we could have gotten.
Yeah, because, you know, we were not only saying the government should go to the IMF. We were saying that if you were not going to go in that way, then this is a natural medicine. Downsize the size of government immediately as a strong signal to the market. What you need to do as alternative to go to the IMF, the government didn't do that. And the government equally didn't make the call. The optimal time to have approached the IMF was actually the last quarter of last year. Inflation wouldn't have been where it is right now if we had made that call. The cedi wouldn't have depreciated the way it has if government had acted proactively. Now, to make matters worse, because government was denying the truth, government's own approach and lack of decisiveness in communicating to the market, its debt level and what will be done, that in itself fueled uncertainty in the market. But you know, the market is smarter than the government. So the market saw and read meaning into the debt dynamics. And that is why when you go and seek early redemption of your investment in the market was already pricing the haircut. The market, because one important function of the market is price discovery. Okay? Now you have inflation officially at 40.4%. Yields across all instruments are already negative. This is financially repressing. On top of that, you know, when it comes to debt restructuring and the rest of them, the most important thing is to communicate to the market and ease the uncertainty. We fail to do that. Even as at now, government hasn't comprehensively disclosed to the market what exactly they want to do. And you come and tell me that debt exchange is not haircut. Any decision government takes that dislocates investors from the original position, it's a haircut.
Right. So would you say
it's nothing
that...
but realized investor losses.
Prof, would you say that what is contained in the budget will put us on course to correcting those mishaps, as you have put it?
It's a painful price. It's a painful price.
But would it put us on course?
Certainly, to come out of this, we have to go through some painful fiscal adjustments. Yes.
And would you say that those adjustments contained in the budget will help us achieve that goal?
Yeah, at the macro level, but the greater price that will be paid in correcting that is too much loaded on households and the private sector. That is the point that we are making. So we have said that there's a price that we have to pay to get out of this. And unfortunately, the adverse distributional effect of that may lean more towards households and the private sector, the vulnerable, the socially excluded.
Prof, so, even as you speak of the vulnerable, it's interesting. I would have paused for later, but you brought in the bond exchange situation. So I'll just bring that situation up. We had an interaction with Dr. John Kuma yesterday, post the budget presentation. And I don't know what you call it, debt exchange, debt restructuring. But he makes mention of the fact that bondholders, local or domestic bondholders, are going to suffer some sort of 30% haircut. And in fact, in 2023, they'll earn nothing. In 2024, they will get 5%. In 2025, they'll get 10%. And it's only in 2026 that, there'll be a restoration to their normal levels. The problem there is that these coupons are what pensioners, for example, rely on. Just how bad could this be when implemented?
Yeah, that is precisely the point that we are making. That all of this leads to a financially repressed society. That may sound like a big word, but if you open it up, you'll find all these things, higher inflation and its impact on savings and debt risk and all of that. They are all leading towards that goal. That's the point that I was making, okay? So, for instance, and when you do all this and then you say that is not realized investor losses, what would that be? Nobody goes to the market to go and make a loss. That's why we don't wash our face upward. Okay. So, and the point is that, you see, I don't know how we should put it, but I think that we must be very careful we don't push people beyond the point where they'll be able to tolerate.
Are we getting there? Are we getting to breaking point, or are we already there?
That is the part that we are heading towards. And especially when you don't see greater commitment on the part of government in internalizing that austerity. So if you tell me that don't drive V8 in Accra, who monitors that? If I see V8 leaving from East Legon, do I conclude it's going to Central Region?
I'm grateful that you've brought this up, Doc, because for me...
Let me give you an example. Not long ago, we said, under a certain regime, that let's give government vehicles a certain special plate to avoid abuse. Did we achieve that goal? So what you do, you see, those things that are difficult to monitor doesn't show real commitment to burden sharing.
Right.
What you do, is easier to monitor if you're saying, I'm reducing my number of ministers to below 40. This is my commitment on the table, and I want you to come along. Why did Côte d'Ivoire choose to reduce the number of ministers from 41 to 32? Look at the data the government itself presented, the outlook for the next 3 years. See where Côte d'Ivoire is heading towards. See where Ghana is heading towards. When Russia started firing guns, Côte d'Ivoire decided to remove certain import duties on wheat and freeze a diesel price adjustment because it disproportionately affects the poor and the rest of them. Countries have choices to make.
Right, Prof. Benjamin, I said I was grateful Prof brought in the angle of the V8.
Right. So V8s and V6 vehicles restricted to cross-country.
Cross-country. You know, it's the same thing that came to mind. A few years back, we said we were going to give them government vehicles specific number plates so that it could be they could be easily identified.
Which is what we are trying to
do
again.
Again. So then, so clearly, it's the same thing that came to my mind. How are we going to ensure that this will actually work? But Prof, there are those who say that government is trying to pull the smart one at Ghanaians with the reduction of the e-levy from 1.5 to 1% and then increasing VAT in the same breath. They say, look, you might as well have just kept the e-levy at what it is and maintained the threshold than reduce it to 1% and, clear the threshold, because then it brings us back to square one. Do you agree?
In fact, it's a negative-sum game. It's not a zero-sum game. It's a negative-sum game on the ultimate consumer. When it comes to multinationals, when it comes to politically connected businesses, they have exemptions. The average Ghanaian today has no exemption. We can't continue like this. We recognize that there are challenges, but we need to be mindful. At the heart of policy is human beings, not trees.
Are you suggesting this administration, especially with this Nkabom budget, is not going to bring about Nkabom? Is going to bring about something apart from that, and it's not going to inure to the benefit of the ordinary Ghanaian?
It's going to take a long time, and perhaps by the time the fruits start coming, a good number of people would have checked in the cemetery.
You mean people are going to lose their lives over this budget?
Not over this, but we are creating economic frictions. Okay, please, as we speak today, vulnerable employment is high in the rural areas compared to the urban and peri-urban areas. It's high, particularly among females than males. The rural ecosystem that supports life has been disintegrated by galamsey and a lack of rural development. A couple of decades ago, life was difficult in the urban areas. You ran to the villages. What we have today. When we say it's not like we don't like anybody, we have been consistent in our comments across regimes that the way we are going, if we are not careful, particularly if we don't have strong social protection and safety net, we may get to the point where people will willingly choose death over life because it's going to be difficult. We recognize, and that is why we have said that Ghanaians had no idea the level of fiscal adjustment that we have to go through in order to create the mess that has been created. Because how debt is managed considerably influences the soundness and solvency of the overall public sector balance sheet. And for that matter, has implications for financial sector stability. You know what? The traditional view, which is still relevant, is that the financial system is ultimately the residual risk claimant of public debt overhang. And that is why we must all, and we have said before that, so the pain becomes much unbearable when you find that the burden sharing is disproportionately against households and the private sector. That is the point. And that is why we are saying that the government missed that decisive point when it failed to show leadership in downsizing and greater restructuring, realignment of state-owned enterprises. If you check since 2017, the number of other state institutions that have been created that are almost doing the same thing. And they all receive budgetary allocations. And actually, they're actually not doing much on the ground. We can talk about some development authorities created, Northern Development, this, that. They all
Prof,
they all receive budgetary allocations, but really, effectively, what are they doing?
It's a good question you're posing, and that is a question that many of us have posed. But let's look on the brighter side. Are there no positives to this budget? I mean, there are other things we want to run by you. For example, in terms of social interventions, LEAP is going to see higher beneficiary status in terms of amount, in terms of numbers. The households are getting 45 cedis per month. It's going to be increased to 90. Government will also increase the beneficiaries from 344,185 to a higher number. And this is also going to increase the budget from 197.5 million to 395 million. Aren't these positives we can celebrate even as we undergo some expenditure
but they are not
rationalization?
sufficient to cushion. They are not. They are not.
Are you saying it will not better the livelihoods of those people, those families?
You are looking at the magnitude of the impact and the cushioning intervention. Okay, at the current price development and the outlook for the next 2-3 years. And the possibility that more numbers will fall into that net, realistically. And the efficiency of administering that over a period.
Right.
The good thing I see from this is that government is waking up to the reality that Ghana is in a deep crisis.
Right.
The good thing I see is that even though the burden sharing is disproportionately against households and private sector, government officials are getting away, we can say that some genuine attempt is now being made to address this, no matter how painful it's going to be. To the extent that government took the bold decision and made a U-turn to go to the IMF. And the result of that U-turn, which also occasioned the debt sustainability analysis. But even before government made a call, we had concluded that our debt was unsustainable. In fact, we took on the IMF when in their 2021 Article 4 consultation were a bit more moderate and diplomatic in classifying our debt position to be sustainable. We were of a different view. Okay. The results of the current DSA is what is triggering uncertainty in the financial market. Debt restructuring. Of course, it's not the first time we are doing debt restructuring. I think we've done it about 6 times also. 1966, I think 72, 78, and then the last one was 2001. But the dynamics of this one is unique compared to the 2001 that we did because of the debt dynamics. Okay, so if you check from 2012, this economy has been going through one form of crisis to the other, and all these things have adverse distributional impact on household firms. Between 2012 and 2015, intense energy crisis. Then from there, we walk straight into financial sector. People realize losses. And we walk straight into COVID-19, then Russia, Ukraine, and now into austerity.
Right.
It's painful, but I think that when we put everything together, it's better that we take these bitter pills and hope that we come out of it. But the unfortunate thing is the lack of consistency. We have been telling Ghanaians to tighten their belt for so long, and I'm not too sure they had any weight anymore to put on the belt.
Right, Prof. Prior to coming to power, this government said it was going to move our economy from one of taxation to production, and it's been heavily criticized for not doing much in that regard, despite the creation of some one district, one factories. In his presentation, the finance minister admitted that we still do have quite a heavy dependence on imported products, and mentioned that we have the capacity as a country to locally produce items that account for about 45% of our annual imports. They include rice, fish, sugar, poultry, cement, pharmaceuticals, jute bags, computers, etc. Now, he says government will target these products for import substitution by supporting private sector through partnerships with existing and prospective businesses to expand, rehabilitate, and establish manufacturing plants targeted at producing these selected items. He says that our heavy dependence actually creates an unfavorable balance of payments position, pointing out that on average, Ghana's import bill exceeds $10 billion annually. Are you optimistic that this time round we will be able to significantly increase production in this country so as to deal with this aspect of our economy we've been complaining about for a very long time?
Well, on paper it sounds good, but there's nothing unique in here. We have been hearing this for a couple of decades now. When this government was in opposition, they talked about how they would change the Georgesburg economy. In 6 years, if you check the NDC and their manifestos and budget that they have also presented over the years, you will see all these things. Where is the result? Why are we talking about this in 2023? What was 1D, 1F meant to achieve? Have we achieved that?
Prof, what do you see as the real threat to our desire to become a production and more export-driven economy? What's the real threat?
That is work. And that is sacrifice on the part of leadership to create space and scope for private sector leadership in greater economic transformation and inclusive productivity growth. We are not doing that. So if you tell me that we will reduce import, we'll do this, but you have burdened the private sector with excessive taxation and imposing further restrictions on the growth drivers of the economy. How do you achieve that? I will be looking at your actions on the ground and not the words. That's the issue. So today, inflation is much lower in Côte d'Ivoire and even among our regional peers. Check the level of interest rate in those countries compared to Ghana. We are talking about African continental free trade, one big market. But we are not investing and creating fiscal space to accommodate private sector. We are not. You want to do, look, do you know something? So assuming government says that 2023, there will be no interest payment to bondholders. Do you know what that will mean for banks? For banks that have heavily invested in government instruments, even at the current development, if you fair value banks' balance sheet under IFRS 9, they are taking a hit. If you market to market in terms of their exposure in FX, they are taking a hit. Would we say that we must then reduce the capital adequacy ratio in order to wipe out some percentage of their conservation capital buffer in order to absorb these losses?
Prof,
how does that lead to overall soundness and robustness of the financial sector in supporting government economic growth strategy? You will see why government-owned projection for GDP growth in 2023 is lower, 2.8%.
That is true. Just to pick your thoughts
because the austerity in the immediate would have implication for growth. That is why that figure is there.
Right.
Output volatility has implication for consumption volatility, has implication for income volatility, and savings mobilization.
Prof, so speaking of that volatility, you've made mention of the fact that you fear for Ghana. You've also said we are heading towards breaking point. You've said we are in a deep crisis. The president himself did acknowledge when he addressed the nation that we were in a crisis. But if you consider, per what Kenneth Oyata says, that our debt stock currently is something around 450 billion, and you decouple what our debt stock was before they took over, which means that we've added on about 330 billion just within these 6 years. What does that mean? And putting that into context, what does it mean when we're expending 339 million Ghana cedis, as of now, over $50 million on a national cathedral? How do you put them together? How do you reconcile them?
I must confess, and I think I've said before, that I have a soft side towards the National Cathedral. Because the idea was that this was going to be off-government funding, right? And that the churches were going to come together and all of that. Then when issues about procurement and the selection of the architect and his own position on this activity and the rest of them actually put some of us off, right? So under normal circumstances, spending that much relative to the size of the budget and the GDP would not have raised so much concern, but all these things now become more elevated in the light of the current challenges and lack of leadership in resolving it. Leadership that is willing to pay the price. If you say we want to come out of this, leadership must first pay the price. When Jesus said he will save us, he first laid down his life. And that's why we have confidence in following him.
So do you feel it's wrong that we're using state funds, expending state funds on the National Cathedral?
And all of that, and the lack of consistency in the communication and government's own position. And how, because my understanding, the cathedral was supposed to bring all of us together. But as it stands now, that has not happened. Okay, so we need to get back to the drawing board and all of that. And even if government wants to contribute to it, I think that has to be, it doesn't have to be done on the blind side of the public. Right. So we need to look at it. So in the scheme of things, then if you want to prioritize, then people will have issues if that becomes highly elevated. But of course, if the original concept was that the churches, the private sector, or individuals were going to contribute to it and all of that, I think let's stick to that.
Right.
Let's stick to that. That honesty is important.
Prof, so you mentioned for you that cutting down the size of government would have been a better sign of showing commitment to dealing with the economic crisis in the country.
Yes.
And for you, things like, the V8s not, embarking on
50% coupon for fuel.
And all those things are not
difficult to monitor.
Are difficult to monitor. But what's your take on the hamper issue, though? It's not the first time. In 2013, in 2014, we had government announcing to SOEs and MMDCs not to embark on that. This year, it has come up again. Would you say that is also not commendable because you can measure it?
That's not what would cause the market to positively receive the budget. Those don't mean much, actually. And when we are saying, you see, and these are not reforms. These are not growth enhancing. We are saying that the way we have operationalized our democracy is too expensive. The cost of governance is just too expensive. Across central government, state-owned enterprises, it's too expensive. The economy can't sustain that. So what you want to do and what we are asking for is that in addition to an IMF-supported program, Ghana should be pursuing some governance reforms, okay, which may also have implications for the current constitution and what needs to be done in order to all lean towards lean, efficient government. Then, even if you are not able to significantly expand your revenue envelope because you are running a lean government,
right,
and you're also pursuing efficiency, that will free up space for growth-enhancing spending or investment. That is what Côte d'Ivoire did when they reduced the number of ministers. Okay, so you could achieve fiscal consolidation predicated on revenue enhancement, a combination of revenue enhancement and then expenditure restraint or rationalization. So you must be looking at expenditure as much as you are looking at raising more revenue.
Right.
And that is why we say that a sport child necessarily does not need more money, but needs discipline as well.
Prof, please permit me to do this. We'll be wrapping up shortly, though. There are those who are concerned about the posturing of government in all of this. You've had reason to even mention that with the government's decision on when to go to the IMF. I remember when I interacted with some traders at Opera Square, there was one man who raised that concern about the utterances of the president, his posturing and all. People are concerned that at this time, and in the state of what we are experiencing in the country, the president was not here while the budget was being read. He went to visit the Black Stars in Qatar. In fact, on his Facebook page, as he usually will do, there are no highlights of the budget. There are those who feel like, well, it's as if we are on our own in this particular issue. What is your quick thoughts on that? What are your quick thoughts on that?
Really, I don't really have a hard view on that. But I think that at the end of the day, it's not good enough to know as a president that you mean well for your people, but you have to demonstrate. You have to demonstrate that to them. And therefore, individuals will make their own choices and all of that. We have leadership deficit, not only in terms of government, but across the political party. It is not as though when you look to the opposition, we are not seeing commitment. What alternatives are? Okay, how it should be done differently. We are not seeing that. Also, okay. So when you put all of that, because we've seen the NDC in government, we've seen the MPP in government, and all of that, and I think that even political parties must be assessing the risk, because we may be endangering our own democracy.
Okay, so just to conclude the conversation finally, I just saw something, a post by Bright Simmons. I just want to run it by you to find out whether the data is correct and what your take is on that, and then you can wrap with how we can make any good of the Nkabom budget. How can we make any good of it? But before that, so Bright Simmons tweets, the government planned at the beginning of this year to borrow only 8.4 billion Ghana cedis from the Bank of Ghana. It has borrowed more than 34 billion Ghana cedis already. That's about 4-5-fold. It believes it would have borrowed 42 billion by end of year. According to Bright Simmons, a more realistic figure is 50 billion Ghana cedis. Do you concur? And how can we make any good of this budget? Quickly on that, please.
Yeah, if you check, because the government has been priced out of the international capital market, now we are not only talking about Ghana Beyond Aid, we are talking about Ghana Beyond Eurobond, because we've been priced out. And then you also see that from the domestic market, the government is also being priced out. So actually, it's Bank of Ghana that has kept the government going. And that is why it's reflecting in those numbers going up, as Bryce Simon has captured. Okay.
How can we make any good of this budget?
Yes, I'm sure Bank of Ghana itself hasn't been that comfortable with that monetization of the deficit, as we call it technically. But it appears they do not have a choice, and that has to be done. That is also the reason it's difficult to contain inflation, right? So debt-induced inflation, as we are experiencing, but already the public, the citizens are already paying down the government debt through higher inflation. That's the true interpretation of it, okay? Because you can see with the monetization of the deficit, with inflation rising up, actually, there's already a conscious effort to shift the burden of the debt from the state to the citizens through higher price development or inflation. Right. Because the idea is that if they monetize the deficit, that jump in inflation effectively represents a form of taxation on your income. Right.
Well, Prof, we're very grateful that you've stayed with us, this long. It gives a very apt reflection of what we have to face moving forward. We're grateful, sir, for your time.
Thank you. God bless you. Have a blessed day.
You too, Prof.
And that was an interesting discussion, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was an eye-opener on many fronts.
Exactly, on many fronts. But for me, the highlight of this is his response to the question about, could we have done anything but this? And he says, well, this is what we have seen as a result of our inaction some 2 years ago.
So we're boxed into a corner, basically.
So this is it.
You don't have any real choices.
Deal with what we...
You see, when he ends talking about Ghana Beyond Eurobonds, so you get the picture.
Yeah.
We're in a very tricky situation, and now we have to fall, for example, a lot more on the central bank. And that in itself has consequences, which we'll have to deal with. Exactly. And that, of course, was Professor Godfred Bokpin. He is with the University of Ghana Business School. But right before we take a break and move on with other conversations, I am thirsty already. And you know why? Water is life. It regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for all occasions, 330 and 500 ml bottles to fit into your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. Bernice is getting into that category right now. We've also introduced our special 19-liter jars for offices and homes. Now, all you need to do, just stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. Come on, grab a bottle of Awake Water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. Now, isn't that heartwarming? It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchases, all you need to do, call 0262 351 251. This advert is FDA approved.
Well, and after drinking some water, you know you need to entertain yourself, right? So you can buy 3 months or 12 months HD Plus subscription on your HD Plus decoder this football season and dial *844 *8# to enter the HD Plus Oricodo Double promo. There are 1,700 rewards to be won, including trips to 3 couples to Dubai in December. Now, isn't that a good one? It's been a hard year, hasn't it? Well, also you can win 65-inch TVs, household appliances, and many more. The promo is valid from now till the 5th of December, and you can just get your HD Plus decoder and give yourself a treat. Well, coming up shortly, Benjamin, we'll be talking to Enterprise Live. You know, there's something coming up tomorrow. That's the... Why are you smiling?
No, I was just thinking...
Oh, this guy is so mischievous.
The income budget to Oricodo.
Well, so it's the Hits FM Schools reunion.
Yep.
And you know how we do it. You know, anytime old students have to come together and talk about their schools, it's exciting, it's fun. It's a time to reminisce the good old days, isn't it? I'm getting excited. You know, usually when we have the National Science and Maths quiz, we see a lot of that. But this is a time for all of us.
I've seen some of the names coming. I think I've seen Kwame Eugene. I've seen Eno Baroni. Our very own Andy Dusty. My other twin brother, though we are not related, will be there. So many, a host of, you know, all those people you look forward to seeing will be there. So
and this is a time for you to relax, chill. Who knows, you may find that friend you've been looking for so long. You know, it's interesting sometimes, and I was just having that conversation with someone yesterday, especially for us women, because sometimes marriage changes names and all that. You may be searching for somebody on the internet, you're not inputting the right name, you can't find them. Who knows? You may find them there. So do join us tomorrow at the Elwak Sports Stadium from 10 a.m. till 10 p.m. And we are able to bring you this wonderful program because we've been supported by many organizations, including Enterprise, which is the headline sponsor. So we'll be speaking to them on the packages they have for you and why you need to be there. So do stay. We'll have that conversation shortly. Thank you so much for staying here on the AM show. Remember what I told you about the schools reunion? Well, I've been joined by James Brew Wattenberg, and I need to find out if you're either Fanti or Ga, because this name, it definitely must come from the coast. Well, he's head of credit risk at Enterprise Life, and they are the headline sponsors for our schools reunion, Hits FM Schools reunion. Great to have you here, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's exciting to see an insurance company be part of something like this. We usually don't see you support such events. So first things first, why did Enterprise Life choose to be a part of this?
So just for your first question, I come from Central Region. You can add the rest. That's for your research.
Okay.
So Enterprise Life, we are part of society. We do a lot of things in terms of CSR and so on and so forth. But when it comes to schools reunion, we decided to be part and make sure that we are seen because of the kind of products that we produce for the community. And one headline product that we've come up this year is the alumni, Enterprise Alumni. And it's actually for all schoolmates.
Okay.
And if it is for schoolmates, which other platform can we get to be closer to schoolmates than partnering with Hits FM and then be in the face of the very people that we want to sell to? So if you ask me why we want to be part, it is because we also want to be seen by the very clients that we want to deliver our product to. So it is important for us that we use such a stage to get closer to them.
What's this product about, alumni?
Okay, so alumni, let me just give you a brief background to it. Site. Okay.
Yeah, in Fantaba.
At this school, so you see,
Santa Moga,
stronger together. So the fact that we all graduated or completed in the same year, we become bonded. We become responsible towards one another. So one member is bereaved or sick or something happens to a member of the year group. What do we normally do? We do reverse insurance. That is, we come together and then try and contribute. But most of the time, it comes at a time when either we are cash strapped or the events are occurring frequently. So in a year, you could have like 2, 3, 4 funerals. And then each time you need to pull out money, it becomes tiring. Apart from that, you notice that maybe side girl, very popular in the group. So it happens and then you get a lot of contribution. But there is other member in the group who is probably quiet, but very active. And because that person is not seen,
very little.
So let me use this studio, for example. You are the face of the news. But we can I can attest to the fact that there are people behind the scenes doing so much. But because we don't see them, we don't know what's happening. Everybody must feel part of the cake. Everybody must enjoy it. So this product is said that it brings about parity, equality in the association. So if Mr. A is getting X amount of support, Mr. B too will get the same, irrespective of how popular you are or how quiet you are in the society, because we are there for each other. So this is what the product is about.
So how does it work? Okay,
so very simple. What we are saying is that maybe because I'm an insurer and I now understand the need and the fact that one day everybody is going to die. Something is going to happen to somebody someday. The fact that I walked across the street and came in here safely doesn't mean it couldn't have happened to me. Everybody faces risk every day. But the fact that you sail through and somebody doesn't mean you are a better person. This product has been designed specifically to cater for touch wood if we should lose a member of the society, of the family, or a member's parents or a member's spouse. Again, we also notice that these days, critical illness and disability, those is what we thought were for the aged, go to Kolebu these days. As young as 20, 25, going through chemotherapy, trying to receive treatment. So in the policy is also a cover for critical illness and then disablement. All for one package for a member. That is what we've done. But we've graduated them in stages in terms of the affordability. We noticed that probably some of us, because we graduated early, we've started working, our pockets are good, so we can afford a bigger package. So we have a package from 80,000 all the way to 20,000. And for the 80,000 package, what all a member is supposed to or required to pay annually, and I'm emphasizing that it's an annual premium, it's just 480 cedis. And you get a package of 80,000. This 80,000 covers the member, the spouse, and 2 adult dependents, in addition to a critical illness or disability. Yeah, so this is the package.
That's good. But does it depend on the group size? For example, so if my year group decided that we were going to take advantage of this package, doesn't matter our numbers, because my class, for example, was quite a small class. It was just about 28 in my class.
You qualified.
Okay. All right.
So minimum number 20.
Okay.
We have no maximum number. As we can even have the whole man side. Sorry, you said it's now site, not man side. Let me correct myself. And my fellow site ladies, I apologize for bringing the man again. Our time is way back there. So you see, as large as the group is, we can have you, but the minimum number to start up 20, and then we are good to go.
And are you willing to take on more members? Because sometimes with these school groups, you may find a member somewhere, they join the group. Exactly. Does it work like that? Is there room for additions?
Exactly. Okay. It's a flexible policy.
Right.
Because we know that sometimes people's decision delay, we are aware that, for a year group, at least the 20 people would start. As it starts and people see the benefits, we know that people will join later on. So as and when somebody wants to join, it's open. But we need a number to start, and then going forward, members can join. Those who get interested.
So in practical terms, say I belong to a year group, we've subscribed to this package, the 80,000, for example.
Sure.
And we have 50 people,
Great.
And we lose a member. How much is that person going to get? Or how much is the person's family going to get?
So for the 80,000 package, it's broken down this way. 20,000, some are short for the main life. That is the schoolmate himself or herself. The spouse of the member is also 20,000, 10,000 each for the 2 adult dependents. I say adult dependents because probably I'm a professional orphan. I lost both mom and dad. But maybe my uncle is there or another guardian who took care of me.
Okay.
So I have the opportunity because I have financial interest in them to cover them.
Okay.
So for these 2 adult dependents, it's 10,000 cedis each. That will put it out to 60,000. So you'll be asking where is the other 20,000. For critical illness and disability, each of them is 10,000. So that puts up the package 80,000. Yeah.
Right.
And for a premium of 480 cedis for the whole year.
For the whole year, great. So just behind you, we're seeing other products scrolling through. I mean, and I must say that that's an interesting, unique product you have there in alumni. But what other products do you have on offer?
So Enterprise has a wide range of products. I was talking about the comprehensive group life policy, which every employer must have for employees. What does it really do? So as a staff, the only protection you have as a staff here is the workman's compensation. And the workman's compensation lacuna is the fact that if the event or the accident did not occur at work, you have no protection. So at home and then something happens to you, who caters for you? But with this corporate comprehensive group life policy, it's a 24-hour protection for you. Disability, critical illness, accident, natural or unnatural death, you are protected. Because, I mean, look at the fact that you lost a staff and because there is no law, and let me correct this assertion, it is not compulsory. It only makes you an employer of choice. It gives morale, it boosts the morale of your employee that we have this kind of protection. It makes them open up to work. So it pays up to about 5 times the annual salary of a staff, should the staff pass. It covers the staff in case of disability or critical illness or even accidental medical case. It's all included. Another product that we have is the FFP Unlimited, Funeral Finance Plan Unlimited. Unlimited in the sense that previously we had age limits on the policy. Now we are saying people are becoming wiser, let me use that word, wiser as we grow. So probably the person is now beginning to understand that I need to cover my parents because funerals are becoming expensive. But my father is 80 years. Previously, the maximum age was 75. So how do I do that? Enterprise Life now says,
we've taken the cap off.
It can be 1,000 years. Come, we will give you cover because that is the most important thing that you want to do. There are other projects, enterprise transitions. I'm sure we call them the funeral people. So from A to Z, just bring the body and you go home. We take care of the body. We have pallbearers, we have heirs to take you to the graveyard, everything. So, and as part of the expansion of the company, we also have Enterprise Nigeria and Enterprise Ghana, Enterprise Life Gambia and Enterprise Life Nigeria. So if you travel to Nigeria and you need life protection, make sure you go to Enterprise Life Nigeria. Or if you go to the Gambia, we are there too as well.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Sure.
Mr. Wartenberg, for joining me this morning. And he's with Enterprise Life. And we've been talking about the package they have, very special one, alumni. Do you have final words?
Yes, so what I'm saying is come to the reunion, and if you are there, come to our stand. You can contact me personally on 0244 709053, or you can call Nana Odro on 0244 709747. We are giving these direct lines because we don't want a situation somebody will say, oh, I called the office line and then nobody is picking and so on and so forth. So call us directly and then we'll be there to sort you out. So Nana Odro, once again, is 0244 709747, or you can call me personally on 0244 709053 and then we'll sort you out. But still come to the stand. All executives of year groups, our stand will be there. So we're expecting you to come there. Let's talk about your protection. Let's talk about protection of your members. And then we are good to go. And
the members of the groups, push your executives there, because sometimes when the money matters get funny, but with Enterprise, you wouldn't have any of that. Well, the Hits FM Schools Reunion is powered by alumni by Enterprise Life Insurance. And we're also bringing it to you in association with the Ghana AIDS Commission. We're bringing back your old school memories. You know that feeling, the nostalgic moments? Well, were you a fan of Jama? Do you still remember how Gary Soakins tastes? One of my favorite meals ever. What about rap battles? Well, join us on the 26th of November at the Elwak Stadium. That's tomorrow. And let's have a lot of fun repping our various schools as we reminisce our high school days. There's going to be lots of activities, and you don't want to miss this twice in a lifetime experience. Stone Boy, Kwame Eugene, and Keche will be there repping their schools and bringing you mind-blowing performances. Hits FM Schools Reunion. Come rep your school in grand style. Hits FM Schools Reunion, powered by Alumni by Enterprise Life. Enterprise, your advantage. And it's also proudly brought to you by 10 Bets for the Better, Koba, our lives simplified, VIP magnetic perfume from Dreams Cosmetics, Alhaji Vision Herbal Clinic, the Eye Doctor, No Surgery, and the Ghana AIDS Commission. Well, coming up, I'll be speaking to the African Women Amplified. They're committed to providing a digital platform for West African women entrepreneurs. We'll be having that conversation shortly. Do stay. Hello there, welcome back. I'm really grateful that you could stay with us here on the AM show. Well, I've been joined by my guest as we speak about the African Woman Amplified, Hour for short. Joel Thompson is lead. She joins me in studio, and via Zoom we have Anatu Abdullahi, who is an advisor to Hour. Thank you, Anatu, for also joining us via Zoom. So let me start with you, Joel. So this is an organization that is interested in bringing women entrepreneurs together. Tell us more about Hour.
Absolutely. So Hour started off as a particular conversation where myself, Anatu, and other leaders within West Africa that were supporting women entrepreneurs came together to think about what were some of the challenges. So we were brought together by Andy in their Gender Equality Lab. And so from that conversation, we realized there were some gaps when it comes to women being able to grow their businesses, particularly in West Africa, around funding, around the education, technical support that they would have. And so from that, we kind of brainstormed on what could be a particular solution for this. And in coming through with the solution, we were offered the opportunity to get some funding to actually bring the solution to life, which is now African Women Amplified, which is a digital platform that supports women, West African women entrepreneurs with growing and scaling their businesses.
It's interesting you talk about the challenges we face, because the statistics tell a different story. In women entrepreneurs in Africa lead the chart when it comes to the worldwide statistics. We have the highest. But when it comes to pay, for example, the male counterparts seem to earn more. And so we need to find out why that is. Let me come to you, Anatu. Why is this a problem? And what are the other challenges that you find that women in the West African sub-region face as entrepreneurs?
Having me on the show. So first off, this problem of women accessing financing or women having the resources to help them scale their businesses is not limited to West Africa. However, the work we are doing is focused on West Africa with opportunity to expand to other parts of Africa if possible. And like Joel said, we started out by working with experts across the West African region as part of the Andy Gender Equality Lab to kind of find out what are the trends and what we could do, what solution we could come up with that would fit across. And while working on this, we realized that there were a number of different factors, some internal, some external. And when I say internal, things that socialization has played a part in, and others had to do with just being able to access the right information and the right resources that will help us scale our businesses. Now, what we realized is that typically women are more risk averse. And so being able to go into access investment that would help to scale their businesses, or being in the right spaces to have access to certain resources that will help them build their capacity, increase profitability, and expand their impact is limited. And so that's why the African Women Amplified has created a digital community that would allow us to peer learn and then also to have access to resources that would otherwise not be very accessible to women entrepreneurs.
Tell us more about what you're doing to level the playing field, really.
So first off, the platform has a data room that would allow for women to put their relevant business information on to be evaluated by the system. This helps tell you where you are with regards to the growth of your business and possibly accessing investment. I think the greatest value add of this platform is that it helps you to access resources for growth. Being able to access investments would be a good benefit, but not all businesses are looking to access investment. And once you're able to evaluate the level of business that you have, you'll probably be able to close certain holes that are draining the resources in your businesses. You also probably be able to remove certain bottlenecks that will allow you to be more efficient.
Right.
And how this levels the playing field is that we are bringing the information to the homes and offices and workplaces of these women entrepreneurs. Typically, women are wearing multiple hats, and so being able to attend certain workshops or be present in certain spaces to access this information is a bit limited. And so this platform is a self-paced platform that allows you to access it as and when you need to in the comfort of your home or community, or even while you're still working in whatever industry it is you are as a woman entrepreneur.
Let me come to you in the studio, Joel. So she just highlighted some of the key features of this platform. But tell us how you're planning to expand it.
Excellent. So great question. And Anatu really did set us up to show the value within the platform. So essentially, this platform is not just for the woman entrepreneur who has it all. It's for the woman entrepreneur who's still thinking about where to start. So the platform offers the resources around learning to say, okay, what are the next steps I need to take if I have an idea? Once you go through the process of ideation on the platform, it then takes you to the next steps as you're building this idea into an early stage business. And then for those that are joining the platform that maybe already have a mature business going, they have some semblance of success, this allows them to give them the next steps to where they or how they can actually further grow their business. So you'll find on the platform we have resources like Learn with Awa, which takes you to a step-by-step process of the technical type of outline of what you need for your business to grow, whether it be branding, operations, how you hire someone. And then you can go from the next step where it's now a matter of those who are maybe more mature or early stage as to who can I connect with, what partnerships are available. On the platform, we have two sides. It's a multi-sided platform. So it's women entrepreneurs on one end, and then on the next end, you have investors who are able to be on the platform. We have people who are interested in being mentors for women businesses. We have people who are interested in working for a startup so that women have access to all of these key people that help them grow their businesses. And that's how, as Anatu was saying, we leverage level the playing field by creating this space of community that's online and accessible for the woman.
Interesting, and it's just good that we're taking this to the digital space, because that's the way to go. Artificial intelligence, we are building digital ecosystems. Just tell us how crucial these are in helping women entrepreneurs, get more successful in their endeavors.
Absolutely. So we know that, of course, the way that the world is growing is this continuation towards this fourth industrial revolution, where we're seeing the world become more of a digital landscape. We don't want our women to be left out of that. We're aware of somehow, the levels of digital penetration in the market right now, particularly when it comes to Africa, but we're seeing the growing rate, and we want to be able to kind of strike it while it's hot. So this particular platform is available both online and offline for women who may be in more rural areas. We're working with our partners in different hubs and ecosystems across West Africa to ensure that the platform isn't just something that is isolated on your phone, but it allows you to enter into a community and still be able to get access to the resources, especially if perhaps you don't have the smartphone. It's important to note that this particular platform is sector agnostic, so it's not just for women in tech, it's for women who are in the beauty industry, women who are in agriculture, women who have any type of business. You can join the platform to get access to the resources that you need.
Sounds very interesting to me. So you're having an event in December. Tell us about it.
Wonderful. So we are excited to formally launch. We've been testing the platform right now with some of our, what we call our early beta users who've been giving us feedback on what should be improved. And so what we want to do is take time to fully launch the platform so that people can get to experience it, understand it more, and we can share it with the world a bit. So that will be on December 10th. We'll be doing this at Impact Hub Accra. And so everyone is welcome to join in, come learn more about the platform, see how it can benefit them, engage with us, and also engage with the community at large of women entrepreneurs that exist here, even in Ghana. So we're not just launching only in Ghana. We'll be doing several launches and talks and conversations to support women, of course, when it comes to the challenges and barriers that we may face while starting our businesses or running our businesses as women. So we'll have launches also in Nigeria, in Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire, to have and hold those conversations.
So quickly, where can our audience get more information, websites, social media handles, and registration processes?
Yes, please. To learn more about the platform itself and, of course, the event coming up, you can visit www.africanwomenamplified.com. So that's www.africanwomenamplified.com. You can follow us on social media. So on Instagram, we are at African Women Amplified. You'll find us on Facebook, the African Women Amplified Community or Our Community. And you'll also find us on Twitter, and you'll get all of the information there. So please do follow us and engage with us so we can learn more about you and your business.
Thank you so much, Joel. Thank you for joining us. We were also joined via Zoom by Anata Abdullahi. She's an advisor of the African Women Amplified, and like she said, if you want to know more about them, just visit their social media platforms. Well, Benjamin Akakpo is standing by for an interesting conversation. Do stay for more.
Welcome back on the AM show, and we're capping off the show with a wonderful bit. I'm talking about this book, Rama's Lemonade, that we're going to be reviewing with none other than Rabiatu Ayoka Brima, the author of the book. Now, this is one wonderful piece that we're going to be biting into. Rabiatu, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Benjamin. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Great. I think it's only fitting that we start. I'm sure people will now be checking out online Rama's Lemonade. What's this all about? We'll be getting to that shortly. Who is Rabiatu Ayoka Brima?
Right. Rabiatu Brima is currently a customer experience consultant and a soft skills trainer. After 20 plus years in the corporate world, I decided to branch out and offer the solutions that I have greatly benefited from to the corporate world.
Okay.
And other individuals, yes. I'm also a diabetes coach, which is not why we're here. I'm an adoption advocate.
Right.
And I am a new author, which is the reason why I'm here this
Which is the
morning.
reason we're here.
Yes,
and you speak about, unsurprisingly, you speak about adoption. I think it's chapter 5 or chapter 9 of the book, chapter 9 of the book. But in summary, just to give us a bit of a context, what is this book about, Rama's Lemonade?
Okay, so Rama's Lemonade is about the life, or let me say the bumpy ride of a modern African woman, right? So a modern African single woman.
It's good you qualify it.
Yes, so she talks about how she sails through the challenges of 49 years of being a single person. She talks about the challenges that come with it, you know, especially in an African setting. And eventually how, well, it's not done yet in that sense, but then how she turns these lemons into lemonade, and how she continues to make lemonade out of life's curveballs. Yes.
It's said that when life throws lemons at you, make lemonade out of them. And that's what Rama does in the book.
Yes.
Let's look, though, about how you stumbled upon writing. You've always not wanted to be an author mainstream, but you've always wanted to write a book. Tell us about that. When did this epiphany hit you? When did you...
This would be in my 20s. I lost my only sister when I was 20. She was 16 then. And then somewhere in my mid-20s, I had experienced a few things and I thought, you know what, this must be shared. So I wanted to write a book. And then as I grew, it became stronger, that desire became stronger. Also because I realized that in this part of the world, we do not like to share our story. Anytime I had an issue, I needed some information, I would Google. I would get information that was theory, and then I would get real life stories. And I realized that I benefited a lot more from the real life story. So I thought, you know what? Everybody has got a story. If you share it, you make the world richer. If you don't share it, you impoverish the world. So, Rabbi, you're going to share your story. No matter how vulnerable it makes you, you're going to share your story. And that's what got me here.
And look, you should grab a copy of this book for real. It's amazing. And it has a ring with Mariama Ba's So Long a Letter, if you've ever read that book. But let me find out. So a lot of what is reflected here reflects you.
Yep. Yep. And what I
mean, I was wondering whether it was mere coincidence that you were using.
This is a semi-autobiography. Right. Therefore, it's talking about the life of the author. It has some fictional elements, and the fictional elements here would be the names of the characters. Okay. Everything else is real.
Wow.
Based on the author's real life story.
So let's look at part of that reality. I just want to read a portion of pages 7 and 8, especially because of what it brings up.
Okay.
I was a hopeless romantic. I had so much passion and love inside of me that I knew I was not born for celibacy. That is why it frustrated the life out of me when people asked me the dreaded question and even tried to suggest possible reasons I found myself in that predicament. They would say things like, "You're probably being too choosy. There's nothing like Mr. Perfect, you know. You're not getting any younger. Your biological clock is ticking," and other insensitive remarks. As if I didn't know. Do they think I'm too dumb to know what's good for me? Who would see good marriage material and let it pass? Not me. If I see available marriage material, I will grab it like nobody's business. Ifya looked surprised as though she wasn't expecting this. Then she burst into a fit of laughter, and I couldn't help but join in. You're so right, girl. The fact is, no one wants to marry junk. And here's my favorite part. Yempe awarie nikaboka. To wit, we don't want a useless marriage. At this point, Ifya is drying tears from her eyes. The belly laughter has triggered her tear glands. If you're excited, then you know you should grab a copy of this book, Rama's Lemonade. Beautiful writing. And so basically, your life is what got you into writing this book, sharing that experience with others. I'm curious, when you look at chapters 5 and 9, you name chapter 5, The Armed Robber, and then you name chapter 9, Adoption, a Beautiful Option. I found those two titles of chapters interesting. Can you tell us a bit about them?
Okay, so then the armed robber bit. Before that chapter, I talked about the fact that with Rama's cousin said to her sometime that before you meet your Prince Charming, you're going to come across a lot of frogs. So then Rama
I saw that recently somewhere on social media. Right.
So then Rama proceeds to share about some of the frogs he had encountered in life. So before the armed robber, there's the con artist, there's the deceitful professor, and then there's the armed robber.
Wow.
So you need to read about the armed robber. She actually encountered one on that journey. She had no clue he was until he died. So get that book. And then talking about adoption, a beautiful option. So taking an African woman, young African woman, there's a certain path that is set for her, or that those are the expectations of people. You get married at a certain age, you have your children, and then it goes on. So when you haven't found the right man, and your biological clock is ticking, and you're past age 40, and you absolutely love and adore children, what do you do?
Not to mention the pressures of family, because you talk about that in the book as well.
Pressures of family, pressures of society. What do you do? Are you going to follow the norms? Are you going to just let society continue to pressure you with all their limitations? Or are you going to figure out what you want as an individual and have a conversation with your God and make a move? So that's where the adoption comes in. And I share the experience of adoption as a single person and the kind of fulfillment it gives to that person who has been most of her life dreaming of having her own children.
Right.
And I talk about the fact that when you adopt, that is your own child.
That is
absolutely your own child.
I loved the way you brought that in, because, you know, sometimes it demystifies so many things. A lot of people here wouldn't go for adoption because they think this or that.
Yeah.
But it's commonplace in other parts of the world. But just to maybe wrap the conversation, for someone who picks a copy of your book, and I'll ask you about where copies can be found, what can they expect? It's almost 200 pages, 168 pages thereabout. What can they expect from this book, Rama's Lemonade?
This book will inspire them to faith. And I'm talking about personal faith. It's not that faith
This is not religiosity.
No,
this is
This
life.
is not this is not churchianity or religiosity. This is life. This is faith. Having an understanding of who God is yourself and taking that path. It will inspire hope, because when you think that with all the challenges, with all the curveballs of life, you're done, nothing else can happen for you. You see it play out in somebody else's life differently, where they flourish, they thrive, even under those circumstances.
Yeah.
It gives you hope. It gives you inspiration. It gives you that bounce back spirit, that don't give up spirit. Because you see, we are here for a short time, and you're going to have to make it count. This book gives you that determination.
You must make that time count. I can't let you go without, in some 15 seconds, tell us, where can people grab copies? Is there a number they can call?
Yes, there's a number they can call. They can get this on booknook.store.
Okay.
So for those who like buying stuff online, booknook.store.
Right.
And then you can get it on Amazon, wherever you're watching this. So amazon.com or amazon.co.uk. Vidya bookstores, both branches, Usu and Laboni, they have it. And then you can also call 059 418 5725.
Please repeat that number.
059 418 5725.
Last time, slower.
Yep. 059 418 5725. And then this book will be delivered to you same day. It costs only 80 cedis in Ghana.
Okay. And that is Rama's Lemonade by Rabiatu Ayoka Brima. You really should grab a copy of this book. It's fantastic, and I'm recommending it for you. You should put it on your reading list. Rabi, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And congratulations on getting that off your bucket list. You wanted to write a book and publish it, and you've done it. Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
Just stay with us as we wrap the show. Now, the most loved and exciting kids cooking show on Joy Prime, Big Chef, is finally coming to an end as we journey to the finale, the grand one. Contestants have displayed their exceptional culinary skills in the last 11 weeks of the competition. We started with 14, and now we're down to the big 6. Adwa, Ama, Fudaila, Aram, Prince, and Laura. Vote for your favorites by dialing *711*60# and follow the prompts. Who wins Big Chef Season 2? Remember, your vote constitutes 40%, so vote as many times as you can. Catch the finale of The Big Chef on Sunday, 4th December 2022 at 5 p.m. on Joy Prime. Now, Big Chef is brought to you by Fortune Rice, Phytol Sunflower Oil, Indomie, Top Choco, Flora Tissues, Low Price Masters, Sankofa Natural Spices, City Blood Tonic, and Perk Biscuits. All of them enabling us to bring you Big Chef. Now, happy birthday to Ms. Janice Bapping of the Ghana Revenue Authority, VAT House. It's from Max Fuga. Interestingly, on the back of the budget, we're talking about VAT. But a happy birthday to you. And on that happy note, we wrap the conversation. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I've done this today with Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. Up next, Joy News Desk. Do stay.